something I was going to talk about. It's really cool to me. Demonic, are you still in here? Because I was wanting to talk about this with Demonic, something I kind of thought was really cool. The Bible talks about. Back out of this game real quick. I was, in essence, just playing that until somebody hopped in the Discord with me. Okay, let me switch back over to webcam only. Alright, cool. And I'm turning these lights on behind me too. So, Easy, are you familiar with James, or not James, Luke chapter 1 at all?
You can't even tell me the names of chapters. I'm not gonna remember. I'll only remember like by the actual quote.
Okay.
I don't remember the chapter name.
That's fair. That's fair. Let me grab this or grab my Bible down real quick. I'm actually gonna think I might just look at it straight through or straight up my. Oh, where's my Bible at? Oh, there it is. I didn't realize I had it back up in here. Let's back out then. Okay, so apparently something I thought was kind of cool is that in Luke, and this is what Preacher was talking about last time I was went to church. We were talking about it. Let's see if I can find it. Here's Luke, and we are in chapter 1, verse 1. Okay, so in Luke we find out that it talks about how basically it's like basically written by Luke, and what's really cool is this this book of Luke is written to this rich guy to kind of prove what he's been told, like about Jesus and about the story of Jesus and kind of what everything that he's heard. And to me, it's a kind of really cool story because back in those times, like easily ask you this, back in those times, like back in the times of like the Bible and stuff like that, who?
Wait, Panther, I don't mean to be rude. Didn't you just tell this story?
I don't think so. Did I tell this story?
Dude, I swear to God, you already told this story like at the beginning of the stream.
This stream?
I swear to God.
I didn't tell any story at the beginning of this stream.
You didn't?
No.
Dude, I'm having a deja vu moment. I swear to God, I've heard you just talk about this story.
No, bro, definitely was not. 100% was not. The only thing we talked about at the start of this stream was purgatory.
Yeah, and then that's when you told the story.
No, the only thing the story I told was about purgatory and how like when Jesus died,
No, I understand that part, but you said that story during that conversation or like after. But like
No
that
way.
story was said.
No way. No, hold up. Now you got me all weirded out because that does not make any sense.
Dude, I swear to God.
Dude, was I talking out my head?
Story.
Just a minute. Hold up. We're pulling up my stream. We're going to go to highlights, and I'm going to re-listen to this while you guys are on stream with me. Because...
You just told that story, bro.
No way did I just tell that story. No way.
I heard you telling the story. You said, okay, it was about a guy who had to prove his faith, and, like, I don't remember what entirely happens, and he starts talking around. And then...
No, you're talking about last stream we talked about, the man that was possessed, and that Jesus takes the demons out of him, and he goes back into the city and talks about it.
No. Wait, is it?
That's probably what you're thinking of.
The guy who got possessed by a demon. Did he have a wife?
No, not that I know of. I didn't talk about anybody that had a wife. I haven't talked about a single story that's of anybody that's had a wife, and this story doesn't talk about anything about wives.
That's so
I
weird.
think you're the one talking at your head right now.
Might be. I'm pretty lucid right now. I'm actually quite like I'm falling asleep as we speak.
Dude, that's so funny. I was not expecting that out of you. You said that I was like, yo, I don't ever remember saying anything about that. What? Yo,
Yeah, because I
what?
was like, dude, I swear to God, I've been listening to you talk, and like I'm not trying to be rude, but I was like kind of like falling asleep to it, but like
No, it's
while I
okay. I
was
mean,
falling asleep to it,
it's like
I was
midnight,
listening
so
to it. I was listening to it. Um, and I swear to God, I heard a story that was similar to that, and then like you were telling it though, because I heard your voice while it was being said,
that's
and
so weird, dude.
it was literally the exact start of the story you just said, and it was like about the same thing, and then like I remember you finishing it off by saying that he went to like talk to either his wife or someone's wife, and then they said something along the lines of along the lines of you can't just make them believe, like you can't just like tell them and expect them to believe or something like
What the heck? What a weird story, dude. Like, I no, that has
that.
nothing to do with this story. That's kind of wild. Dang, dude, that's crazy.
Dude, I swear to God, that's what I heard. I don't know. I could have made it up too, though. To be fair, I'm pretty, you know. So my head could have just like completely envisioned that,
Okay.
or mixed some of your words around.
Dude, that's so wild because yeah, he's the only that's literally the only thing I even said like story wise about this the start of the stream was just about purgatory. Everything else has been talking about Rocket League or
Oh,
literally
that's
anything
so
else. Like,
funny.
God, bro. Um,
You can go ahead and finish.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Sorry
that's so
about
funny, dude. So,
that.
Danielle, if you're in the stream right now, the question I just had asked Easy was at the time of like, so if we're looking in history wise, in the times of like when the Bible was written, like back in those days of like Romans, Caesar, all of these different like back in the old days, like when paper wasn't just a normal thing, like you had like scrolls weren't just like regular, like you actually had to get someone to write things down. Like not everybody knew how to write or read. Um, but the question I asked was back then, who like what stories were written about? Who was written about in those in stories back in the day? Do you know, Easy?
Who was written about in the stories back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
What stories are we talking about? 'Cause, that's very vague.
Just in general, like during that time period, what is the most like common like people to be like written about? Like the accounts that we have now of like people from back in these generations, what is it that we normally have accounted from them?
A lot that happened in that time
Okay, so I'll give you the answer that I've got. So through history, the only accounts that we have like really have from that same time period, like the time period like what we've gotten of the Bible, about Jesus and stuff, is from boring rich people. Okay, because they were the
period.
only ones that had enough money to be able to pay a scribe to write stories about them. They were the only ones that had the money to be able to pay for scribes to write stuff at all. So, in that situation, you know, if that's the only way that people could really have things written about back then, my question to you all and question to people on my stream is if rich people are the only ones that were written about back then, with Jesus not being wealthy or from like a very high class type household, why is it that we have so many accounts about him? Why is it that we have literally a massive book with accounts of him all throughout it? because that question was asked to me, and I was like, that's kind of I never really thought about it like that, like because I mean, really back then they're not wrong. The only thing that was really written about was these boring old rich people, or your kings or queens, which again, rich people, people that are like these like massive people in the era, like rulers and stuff. That's really all that we have like real accounts of back then.
But I mean, think about it though. Okay, you have to think about it, right? Because if we're going based off of like the Bible, like lore, right? If we're going based off of that, he wasn't just some person.
Right.
He was someone that people were talking about all the time. Well, not all the time, but he was someone that people were talking about, getting word about from all over, not just from like one small city with a bunch of peasants in it. It was all over, and people like from multiple people, multiple people from multiple different areas were talking about him.
Exactly.
Like
So,
so much so to the point where like a literal army felt threatened by him. Like
oh yeah.
why would he not appear everywhere?
So that's what that question begs to be the answer, is that like if normally in a normal sense the only people that are written about are old rich people, if the question is why is it that Jesus is written about even though he's not that, there's your answer. You're answering it exactly how it should be answered. Is that that proves that there's something different about him. That he's being talked about by multiple people. Like there's some reason for them to write about him. Not just because he's got money. Not just because he's important, like ruler type important. But like there's something different about him that would make people write about him. Does that make sense? So like that's kind of was kind of the answer to that question. It's like that's why like that kind of proves as to why like it makes sense why we would have some type of account of him if he wasn't wealthy, is because of all these crazy things like that, like that people would actually write down about, like, yo, like this is crazy, we gotta write this down. So that's kind of like the answer to that question. But that's was kind of my question for thought for people, is like if you kind of want some proof as to like Jesus, like what Jesus did or whatever, like why is it that we would have account of him if he's not rich and old, like this old rich guy? Uh, so what's really cool next, Luke 1:1 talks about how exactly that. It says, many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. So with that, basically, Luke 1:1 and 1:2 talks about the fact that many people are writing about Jesus during this time. So it's like that right there says exactly what you just said, Easy. There was multiple people writing about him. And not only
Yeah.
that, but they were getting this from the eyewitnesses and the servants of those people. Like it's like they were getting it from the people that were there, that saw it firsthand. Like they were coming to them, telling them about it, and they wrote it down. Like they were like, okay, I'm gonna write that down. So they like automatically wrote it down there. So it talks about how they did that, and then they go straight into the fact that in Luke 1:3 it says, with this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus. So what's crazy is Luke then goes back, not only after hearing it from firsthand accounts, he then turns around and he says, okay, just to prove that this actually happened, all this stuff is true, he goes and he investigates it himself to make sure that that's the case. He goes in and he's like, I'm gonna go to this, like to this and this, and find out. I want to find the truth and really write the truth here. He said, so he literally went and investigated all of this information and fact checked it just to make sure it was true before he even went to write it down, which I think's crazy. Like it shows, like it talks about the fact that that a ton of people were writing about it, and then turns around that Luke is like, okay, before I actually write this to this guy, I'm going to go and fact check it. And so a little bit of background information. The book of Luke is literally a letter, a book letter to this guy named Theophilus. And all that we really know about Theophilus is that he was a rich, old Christian. So basically, what's funny is, again, scribes, the only people that ever write anything down, normally are paid by a rich old guy. Which, what's crazy in this instance is that he was already being taught. It says towards the end about, he says, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. So he has already been like talking about this stuff here lately, and he was being taught, like that shows that he was a Christian, like being taught all these things that we've already talked about. And it says that Theophilus kind of had questions, like he kind of like wanted to know more. He wanted proof of what was going on.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So Luke goes in and literally takes account of all this stuff and then fact checks it, makes sure it's true, investigates all that before he then sends it to Theophilus to basically prove to him everything that they had just taught him, like everything about Jesus, all of the works of like what he was going on, like literally just the story of Jesus in itself, and all like the works that he was doing. And yet here again we see that we as Christians and people throughout the entire world have to have things proven to us. We're always about having to have proof, right? So it's just funny to me, like here yet again in the Bible is another example of someone asking for proof that Jesus exists and was doing miracles and doing all these crazy things at the time. And looks like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go find proof for you. And he finds the proof and then writes it down in the book of Luke, and then sends it to the dude. He's like, okay, here you go. Here's your proof. This is like what we've taught you about, and here I've like already double checked it. Like here, this is what's happening. So I just thought that was like kind of cool thing to look at, as like as proof of maybe a proof that, you know, for the ones that are out there that don't believe that Jesus existed, like Jesus exists, or that like wasn't doing works at the time. For the ones that really like doesn't believe in God or doesn't believe in what the Bible says, like maybe that's kind of some form of maybe helping to prove like maybe that's the case. Like kind of at least, even if not, like you're not even just that, but like just mainly, you know, it's food for thought. Like to question, like, okay, well maybe like let me do some more digging into that era of like what actually was being written down back then, like what was going on then, and why is it that if that is the case, why is it that the Bible is written down, and so well written for the time period. I just thought that was kind of cool. I got to kind of learn about that the other day. So that was really cool to me. I don't know if you've even heard that story or not, but there's your new story.
I've heard multiple like different like accounting sort of like actual, because I did always like wonder like, oh, who wrote this? So like how did it get written down? It's always interesting to learn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, different parts of the Bible are written by different people, obviously. That's why kind of how we get the different like books of the Bible, like names and stuff, for some of them. But this one in particular, that's how it was written. That's what it was written towards. It's literally just an account of everything that we see Jesus doing at the time, which is really cool to me. I thought that was kind of wild.
Yeah, it's always pretty interesting. Which I don't know why I thought of this question, but it leads me to this question. Right, with how strong your connection is, and how like how pure your belief is. How do you think you would react if the situation occurred that you found out that it's all like fake, like if it never existed,
So
if it was made up?
So what you're asking is like when I die and I find out, like if I was to find out, like, yo, none of this existed.
Yeah.
Okay. Um.
I'm not saying this as like disbelief or anything.
Right?
Just
Yeah, yeah,
trying
yeah.
to like or
Just
anything.
kind of
I'm
like what like kind of like a what if situation.
hypothetical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
quite honestly, it's kind of a hard question to ask. It's like obviously nobody really knows what you do in that situation. I feel like, but I will say there's a lot of occurrences that have happened in my life. There's a lot of interesting things, like interesting times throughout my life that I could feel something. It was just like you just kind of for the Christians that are already out there that are listening to the stream or have like we'll go back and listen to this later on. You'll know what I'm talking about. Like there's just times where you'll feel the hand of God on you, and like you just feel something on your heart, like it feels like He's moving you. That you really wouldn't feel if you weren't so in line. I feel like. So I'll have honestly, I don't. Not even that. Like I will be upset, obviously, like that. Like I would be devastated, but I'll have a lot of questions as to like what was actually going down um, during those times because to me it's like if God does if at the end of the day if I get to heaven and God or if I die and heaven doesn't exist, God doesn't exist.
If I get to die.
Yeah, when I die and nothing exists, I'm really going to question what was happening throughout my life, through all these different or circumstances, through all these different things that I was just able to feel, like clearly feel what I would call the Holy Spirit move in me and throughout the people around me. What I would clearly call the hand of God over top of me and people. What I would call miracles, what I would call like just stuff that I can't like I wouldn't be able to explain without like I would have a lot of questions of like what was actually going down. Does it make sense? Like it's not even necessarily like me questioning anything like else. It would straight up be like okay, well then what explain this? Like what was this then if nothing existed? You know what I mean? Because there's just been too many things that just doesn't make sense for that to be the case.
Would you feel like your time and dedication was wasted if that were to happen?
Honestly, no. Now hear me out. If at the end of the day, which this wouldn't make any sense, and I would be so dumbfounded. If another religion was right, and I was like our religion was wrong.
I was gonna ask you that next.
Yeah. If that was the case, I would be so dumbfounded because for one, it wouldn't make sense. Because there's a lot of religions that they're really good, but they have their faults. They have their gaps, their holes that just doesn't add up.
I mean, technically, that's every.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be really dumbfounded though if it was a different religion that was right, and I would really confused, and quite honestly, I would question, kind of like I feel like at that point maybe I'd be like, okay, well that was kind of a waste, but in the general sense of things, if I die and there's nothing there, nothing left, no, I don't think it'll have been a waste of my time. One, because only good will ever come out of me being a Christian and walking towards what I call the will of God. What I call is walking in His footsteps and where He'll have me, or like, where He has me going, where He'll lead me, following the path that He set out before me. Good will be the only thing that ever comes out of that. If I truly walk it like I'm supposed to. Yes, I'll fall short. Yes, I'll do things I'm not supposed to do. I'll fail. Sin will happen. Yes, I will do things that will make me not look like the person I'm supposed to be. That will be out of His will. But the goal is that I'll walk in His will and do what He's asked me to do, and do it exactly how He's asked me to do it. So for me, it wouldn't be a waste of my time, because I'll have lived life to the fullest of what would have been a good life for me. I'll have been going in the right direction. I'll have based my morals off of something that is morally sound. Whereas if I was to do the exact opposite, and I wasn't going to believe, and I wasn't going to, you don't have anything to base your morals off of besides a man-built right or wrong system. Does that make sense? So like,
Is that truly a problem?
so I would love for you to read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, because I've been really questioning a lot. It's honestly opened up a lot of very interesting questions like this to me here lately. And I've been really pondering a lot of this stuff. Mere Christianity talks about our innate and natural law. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but the idea is like that even after we, how do I put this? Without, like everybody is technically under this moral law. So like, even though man says something is right or wrong, we still go against it. Okay, so even though if I trip you, okay, you're gonna be mad at me, right?
Am I?
In general sense, if I tried to trip you and I tripped you up, you're gonna be like, "Yo, bro, like what the heck? Like, why'd you do that?" But
It depends on my mood.
okay, so but this is not a very good example. He uses this example, but I don't really remember exactly how he put it. But then he also says, he's like, "But if I accidentally trip you," he was like, "Yeah, you're still gonna kind of be mad, but you're not gonna be as mad." And like the same sense is like, if you tell somebody not to do something and you ask them not to do it, like, or do exactly what you've done, but then turn around and you end up doing exactly what you told them not to do, a lot of people are going to make up an excuse. They're going to be like, "Oh, well," they're going to show some type of excuse as to why their instance was an exception to the rule. They're going to make an excuse as to why something happened, or they're just going to be like, "Oh, well, like whoops," like they're going to make some excuse for it. And the thing is like, even though we've created these laws, man still ends up breaking it, and they still show, like, we still show that there's like, "Oh, well, there's an exception to this, so there's an exception to this," or like, "Oh, well, I didn't mean to do that." Like, they still show some type of something like that. Whereas like moral law, you know what's right or wrong. There's not like an exception based to that in essence. So it's like, at the end of the day, people still know what are right or wrong when you look at it at the very, very basis of like human instincts, and like how like our brain, like conscience works. So the answer to like your question of like, well, is that necessarily a bad thing to base it off of like something that a human has created? It all depends on how humans created it. Because like, an instance is, you look at the Spartans, you look at I guess China, was it Japan, either Japan or China, back in like 16th century, 15th century, whatever it was. You see, they would kill kids that had deformities, or kids that weren't going to make it, like weak kids. Like, they would just like throw them off a cliff, like, "Oh, whatever, like, you weren't gonna make it, survival of the fittest, I guess." Like, back then that was okay, and I just thought like, "Oh, whatever, like that's cool, like that's okay." So like, if we're looking off that, like, nowadays people are gonna be like, "Oh, that's terrible, that's awful, that's wrong." Whereas like back then they're like, "Yeah, that's perfectly fine." Like, you see what I'm saying? So like, but the way that man creates law and creates like right and wrong, it's based off of what they want it to mean. to the exceptions that they want to use to how they want to fit their personal goals. Does it make sense? Yo, Easy, you still there, bro?
No, I'm there. I'm just like, um, it. I I guess it does. Like it makes sense, but it also kind of doesn't really make any.
So, in that sense, like if man creates like your sense of good and bad, like just like Hitler. So Hitler's good and bad was that people that were blonde hair, blue eyes, and
White
were
skin.
German. So like white supremacy, like Nazi, like that whole Nazi ordeal was
Hmm.
that was good. Like that was supposed to be good. But then he also shows like that Jews were bad. Like okay, this is like a really messed up like example, but you'll get what I'm getting at. Like this is
Hmm.
so like adversely hard for us to like see as being okay that I think you guys will understand this a little bit easier. Um, Obviously looking at that with from our point of view, that's terrible. Like that's not good and like what good and bad's supposed to be. Like obviously that's not right. So he made good and bad he made that to be what's good and bad. Okay, so man created good and bad to mean blonde hair, blue eyes, German, like the Nazi, like this is here. Whereas on the other hand, he's like, Joe, Jews aren't good. Like Jews are bad people. Like this is not like this is what bad is. And he goes off and has all of them killed, right? Or tries to have all of them killed. And the idea is that like the Bible, if you follow the Bible throughout this, it doesn't change. It never changed. Never changed. God, what God said and what God has laid out is like right and wrong in our morals. Like if because God, as it says that we are made in His image, it shows if we follow like what He would have us to believe is good and evil, right and wrong, like through our conscience. That has always been bad. That always will be bad, and it shows what like good and evil it looks like. It shows what right and wrong looks like. Whereas if you look throughout all of history, you'll see right and wrong, or what we call right and wrong, changed. It will subtly change or it will drastically change all throughout history. Like it's constantly changing. So what's crazy to me is that even though history is constantly changing and showing what good and like what right and wrong is supposed to look like, what society says right and wrong is supposed to look like, man says right and wrong are supposed to look like, the Bible doesn't ever change with that. God never changes with what right and wrong is supposed to look like. He never changes in the way that he says like this is right and this is wrong. Like that doesn't ever change. So for me it's like yeah, that's if you go off of what society says, yeah, that's wrong because the problem is like it's always going to change. There's always going to be somebody that says, "Oh, well, this is an exception. Well, this is different. We need to change what right and wrong looks like here." Whereas like you've never seen this change. Is that a better? I feel like that's probably a little bit better of an answer than what the original answer I gave you.
Oh, demonic. All right.
All right, let me read. Let me catch up with chat. Yo, what's up, Shadow? Welcome in. How you been? Good to see you here. Even that God wanted a man to be with a woman, that if you're who are go to hell. Um. So this is always the question that
Got caught in that trap.
do what? What'd
I
you
said you
say?
got caught in that trap.
Honestly, it's not even a trap though. It's just I mean
I know.
that's a
I'm
real
just.
question that people always ask,
Yeah.
and I even have
No.
people
Yeah.
that are, and I don't know whether you are or not, and I don't. At the end of the day, I don't care. I'm not called to
Yeah.
judge. I'm not called to hate. I'm called to love.
You
And
love
I'm
your neighbor. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm called to share God's word with every nation. So that's what I will do. But to answer that question, my belief personally, because like I said, I believe everything that the Bible says, is it says that for a man to be with a man is an abomination. So, just like throughout the Bible, you see that it straight up says we have all fallen short of the glory of God. Um, and it's not even about the fact of man, woman, bi, gay, lesbian, whatever, like that sin and whether you're not going to go to hell because of that sin. The idea is like we've all sinned and all fallen short of the glory of God. Um, it doesn't mean that you're just going to like straight up go to hell because of that. The idea is you can technically be, and this is kind of a lot of people like a touchy topic. A lot of people don't like to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to heaven. In my opinion, you can go to heaven and be gay, be bi, be lesbian. But here's the deal. If you become a Christian and you start to believe what the Bible says says, and you start following the will of God and what He would have you to do, you're going to want to be that. And that sounds terrible.
Oh.
But hear me out. That temptation, just like sexual immorality, just like the temptation to drink, just like the temptation to do drugs, just like the temptation for lust, for gluttony, for literally any any sin that you could ever imagine that has some form of temptation with it. That temptation will always be there, even after you become a Christian. Even after you start walking in the will of God or what God has asked you to do.
Well, it's supposed to be, especially after that, because
right.
It's supposed to be your test.
Right. So the idea is that once you become a Christian and you start following what He's asked you to do, if you really are wanting to follow in what He'll have you do and what it's like what the Bible says about Jesus and like following in His footsteps, picking up your cross and becoming more like Him, you're not going to want to do that. Just like you're not going to want to probably go out here and have sex with everybody. You're not going to want to go and drink. You're not going to like those temptations will still be there, but you're going to suppress that instead of going full send at it like you normally would. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants to go all out and do those things as right now. I don't know any guy that's like, yo, bro, dude, I would absolutely smash her. Like they're all about we're like every man's about that. Like they're about that. A lot of people are out here like, yo, I want to go get drunk tonight. Like I want to do drugs. Like there's something like everybody has their own temptations that they fall towards and that they falter in. But at the end of the day, when you become a Christian and you start like wanting to live in the will of God, you're not going to want to fall to those temptations anymore. You're going to ask for strength to try to not fall to those temptations. And that is a hard question. That's a very hard thing to answer and a very hard thing to talk about because just like nobody wants to talk about the sins that they really are facing in their everyday life. And a lot of people don't even see what they're doing is bad, in essence. Because again, just like what me and Easy were talking about, if you only see through the perspective of the world, if you only see through the lens of the world, you'll never realize that things are bad because the world sees that that's okay. And just like I'm going to love the people that are bi, the people that are gay, the people that are lesbian, and I will love them no different than I would anyone else on earth. Just like that, the world shows that that's okay, whereas the Bible says it's not. Just like where the world says that drinking's perfectly fine, that you should go out and get drunk whenever you want to. The world says that sex in general is perfectly fine, there's no problem with it, and the world actually pushes you towards that temptation. They make it so easy now. They make that sex appeal. And literally, I mean, in marketing, which is something I'm learning right now, I'm a marketing major. I'm taught about sex appeal. Like that's something that we're supposed to use to grab attention. Like that's normal. But see, the problem is like again, that's not supposed to be okay. It's not good. So in the same sense, it's like the Bible says it's not okay, just like everything. It says that everything else is not okay, whereas the world says different. The world says that that's okay. And if you look through the world's eyes and you look from the perspective of the world, that will always seem okay, even though it's really not. If you believe what the Bible says. But that's the best answer I can give you to that question. Um, is that you're probably not going to want to do those things anymore. It's a very tough. It's hard for people to understand until they get into the situation. It's like, yo, I want to know more about this Jesus guy. I want to follow him. I want to be about that. Um, you know, and then they realize, well, that means that you probably shouldn't do this. You probably shouldn't do that. You're not going to want to do these things. It makes a whole difference. It really does.
You kind of want to put it in one juice, because I understand that like it's not something you judge, and it's not something you will ever judge or anything. But do you believe it is a sin?
Yes, and just like I believe that getting absolutely wasted is a sin, just like I believe that sexual immorality is a sin. Um, I mean, literally everything that the Bible talks about being a sin, I will believe it's a sin till the day I die. Just straight up. Um, because, like I said, every word true, and if that's true, and everything that if it talks about Jesus in the Bible, talks about God and all of that, I believe all of that's true. Then I believe in essence that everything else that this Bible says is true, and I have to live by that. And if I'm living in the will that God's told me to live in, it's kind of hard for me to get to pick and choose and to cherry pick what I believe in the Bible. Um, Wait, I just realized what the stream was. What do you mean, Carnage? I appreciate you hopping in the stream, by the way. Nice to see you in here. Got you on the hydrate, bro. Does that mean I get a hell if I just use them in? So the whole idea about see that I hate how people word that. So they always word it as, well, if I do this, does it mean that I go to hell? That's how people word it every time that they ask about a certain sin. Um, the idea is that without Jesus, it doesn't matter what sin you commit. The wages of sin is death, which means hell. Um, is that every single sin we could ever commit throughout our entire life, like the what the cost of that sin is, means that you're going to go to hell if it wasn't for Jesus. And see, what's so great about Jesus, what's so fantastic about him and the story, is that he came and he died for not only me, not only Easy, not only my boy Maniac. He died for Shadow. He died for Danielle. He died for Carnage here. He died for literally everybody on this earth. He died to save you guys from that sin. He paid that. He was the sacrifice that paid that wage. That paid that. And the only, but the thing is the only way that you get to pay that you get that paid for you is if you accept that he existed and you accept that gift that he gave you. Did not know. See, it's really a talk about beliefs and questions, not entirely Bible study. Yeah, I don't really know what to call it. So I put it as Panther Kingdom Bible Study, and I call it Bible Study because, quite honestly, I really don't know what to call it because it's not like any Bible study that you would normally go to.
Yeah.
It's really
I think
more.
it's funny that we call it that, though. I thoroughly enjoyed that we call it that. It's just funny to me.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic, kind of rhetorical, but it's like, we come in here, we talk about religion, we talk about what I believe, what Easy believes, what people in the chat believe. We talk about faith in general. We talk about different religions. We've talked about Muslim, we talk about Muslim. We talk about Catholicism. We talked about Christianity. We've even talked about people that just don't have religion at all. We talked about a lot. So everybody's welcome, and I want everybody to come in here, and I 100% want people to come in here and give me their thoughts, and I want to know more about it because I think it's so interesting to hear different people's beliefs and get to learn more about what you guys believe. I don't believe in Jesus. I respect whatever people want to believe in. I just believe in human moral right or wrong. Pegasus is the
talking about that too. That's funny.
Yeah. So Carnage, I was actually going to ask you that. So I don't know if you were here, if you got to hear that part. We were actually just talking about human moral right or wrong. So let me ask you this question. So would you say that the human moral of right and wrong has changed throughout all of history? Do you think that that's changed? I'm a Hindu, but I don't practice. My fiance is a Christian, also not practicing. He just believes in right or wrong too. Okay, interesting. That's actually really interesting. So
What do you mean?
let me ask you this. So, and I'm not. So I don't. Before I say this, I don't want anyone to take any offense. Anything that I say during my stream is not meant for anyone to take any form of offense to. It's really just me asking you guys questions and kind of giving you guys food for thought. So, she says she's Hindu, but that they don't practice. And then she said that her fiance is a Christian, but he is also not practicing. Okay? So, my question is, if you're not practicing your faith, and you only believe in right or wrong, are you really, can you really, like, I guess, put yourself under that faith system? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I say I'm a Christian, but I don't believe what Christians believe, and I only believe, like, right or wrong, am I really a Christian if I don't actually believe that? I guess is
Well,
what I'm.
technically, okay. Here's the thing, though, is that every religion, or almost every religion, has a belief system of right or wrong. So
Okay.
if she simply believes in morality and the rules of right or wrong, is she really not
Well,
believing what her religion believes?
see, I would question that because I can only speak for the Christian side of things. So for her fiance's side of things, so if he believes in right or wrong based off of the Christianity belief of right or wrong, then he also has to believe that God was the one that set that right or wrong. And if he believes that God set that right or wrong, then there's a lot of things that would trickle down from that of the faith. Okay, so that's what I was. That's okay. So that's what I was asking. So again, like I said, I'm not trying to come at anybody. I'm not trying to be any type of way with anyone. This is literally just me asking questions because I'm curious. I'm curious as to how people think about these things. Um, so that's what I was wondering. So she said, yes, just because I don't practice doesn't mean that I'm not. I don't pray, but at the end of the day, I know that God knows my faith, and it's not my place. I'm not here to judge and like ask if people are actually like believe what they believe. I'm just curious as to kind of like what people's beliefs are. So that's what I was. So you still believe that there is a God that knows your faith, and that's what I was kind of what I was curious about. Is like if you still believed in a God, if that's the case. Not necessarily, I wasn't like saying that like you don't pray or that anything like that. I was just curious as to like if you still believed even if you don't practice. Um, because I've been there. Because in that situation, I've 100% been there. I've been exactly in that spot a couple of years ago where I didn't really pray too much. I didn't go to church. I didn't go do anything like that. But um, I still believed. I still believed in God. I still believed in Jesus. I still believed everything that the Bible says. I just wasn't actively searching. I wasn't actively following the will of God. I wasn't actually actively walking in what He would have me walk in. Like with my religion, I have to fast and not eat meat during Hindu holidays, which I do not follow because what I eat I have to do, or what does what I have to eat do
What
with my
I
faith?
eat
Sorry,
has
I was really struggling with we've hit
So
that
what
part of the
does
night.
what I eat have to do with my faith?
There was nothing wrong with how she wrote that. I just could not read
Oh,
it.
oh yeah, I
Hundred
know.
percent
I'm
was
reading this.
struggling.
I was
100%
reading
was
it
struggling.
along with you, and I was
That's
just
so
waiting
funny,
for you
dude.
to.
I was, oh god. You know, sometimes as a kid, I think I might have been a little bit dyslexic, but where I read so much, like I would
As
like
a
force
kid,
myself to
okay.
read. You know, that one kind of hurt, buddy. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that just that I see what you're getting at now because I've been there. I've been there, done that. And I
No, that's a
agree.
fair
What
enough
you have to
question.
eat really doesn't 100% have anything to do with your faith, in my opinion. So I believe that. I get that. So, but I don't know. But
But
that's kind of where I'm at on it. And back to like sin and like what's right or wrong, like what gets you to hell, in quotes, is like what people were asking earlier, was that, you know, any sin would put you into hell. It doesn't have to be what people see as the big ones of.
And I find it funny too is that like people will just say like, oh, immediate. They ask it as if it's like immediate and like just that thing.
Right.
It's so
And
funny to me.
that's the one thing, like, it's really hard for me to wrap my head around. A lot of people that aren't Christians and don't see that side of things are really struggle with, is like, oh well, I do this, or I've done this, and like that's going to send me to hell. Just like Danielle asking, like, will me being bi send me to hell? Well, the problem is there are a lot of things that are going to send you to hell. There's a lot of things that would have sent me to hell. There's a lot of things that would send Easy to hell. There's a lot of things that would send people to hell in general.
I'll be right back in a second. You can keep it.
Yeah, you're good. So sin in general would do that, because, like I said, the wages of sin are death. But what's so cool, like I was saying, is that Jesus came and paid that toll. He died on the cross for me, for anyone else, literally anybody else that has ever existed. He paid that debt for. We just have to accept it. We just have to accept that gift that he's given to us and believe what he's told us. And from then on, it's like his blood like washes over those things. He washes over our sin and takes it away. So it doesn't matter. And people ask, well, if that's the case, well, Christians can use that as a crutch to do whatever they want to do, to sin however they want. Technically, you're right, they could. But but then again, like I said, is once you become a Christian and you start following the will of God, you're not going to want to do those things. Yes, we'll fail, just like every kid does, every parent, or with every parent throughout your entire life of growing up. You're going to fail. You're going to do stuff you weren't supposed to do. You're going to fall and cut your knee. But then you get back up and you go right back to what you were doing, and you've learned from it, and you're trying to do better. And what's so cool is we make mistakes, but God will come through and he'll patch those up. Just like we fall and cut our knee up, and within a couple of days it's already healed. But we remember the pain, we remember what we did wrong, and we try not to do that again. It's kind of the thing there. So it's like, what's so cool about Jesus is that he saves us from all the sin that we've committed. So, like I said, with Danielle asking, well, if I'm bi, does that mean I'm going to go to hell? Normally, yes, it would mean that. But Jesus paid the ultimate sacrifice for you too, because he loves you. And he paid that so that way you don't have to go to hell. That doesn't mean that you just get to get off free with it, but if you accept what Jesus has asked you to and what he's given you, and you start following his will, that sin will be washed away from you. You may still have that temptation, still have that want, but you won't have to worry about that being the reason that you go to hell, because God's already going to wash that away from you. Is what's so cool. Yeah, Luna, you're more than welcome to hop in the we're in the Bible study voice channel on my Discord if you want to hop in. I'm going to catch up with chat with only, let's see.
I would like to further. I'm gonna end up leaving here soon. I
Yeah.
Start winding down for that as well.
My only thing is I don't like when people use their faith to justify making another person's decisions on their life. So that's the thing with faith. I love the way you worded that, because I agree. People's faith shouldn't determine what other people feel like. People's faith shouldn't be able to justify other people's decisions, shouldn't determine other people's decisions. I'm not called to judge people for what they're doing. I'm not called to judge people for all the different bad things that they've done. The Bible clearly writes out what right and wrong is.
Hopefully
100%.
you guys can hear me.
What's up,
Yeah,
Luna?
we can hear you.
Oh, hi.
So, but the Bible, in the Bible, it clearly writes out right and wrong. So, God doesn't need me to tell people what they're doing right and wrong. It doesn't need me to judge people for that. I'm just called to be here and love people. Called to be friends with people, love people, and tell them about Jesus. That's all I'm called to do, 100%. So I agree with you. It shouldn't justify making other person's decisions on their life and like pushing like that onto people. But at the other end of the day, or at the end of the day, it's still in the Bible will tell you right and wrong, and that's what you're supposed to follow. So that's my thing. Is like I'm not going to force that and tell you, oh well, you're like this is terrible, like this you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do like and like come at you for it and keep badgering you and judging you for the stuff that you do. But if you ask me, I'm going to tell you what the Bible says is right and wrong. So.
By the way, for further clarification for any uh, it's just questions. They're the questions, and we're gonna make like statements and stuff that are gonna sound judgy and stuff. But it's just out of we're asking and we're saying stuff, and we're kind of questioning everything as like a form of a newborn child trying to figure out like everything. So
Right.
it's gonna sound stuff, but it's not meant. It's just meant with the intent of that.
Right. So it may get aggressive. It may sound like I'm coming at people, or it may sound like I'm trying. Like it's going to sound more rude than it actually means sometimes. But I don't mean anything towards anybody when I ask questions. I'm really just asking you questions so that way I know. Like because it interests me to know what people believe and how they think about things. So I'm gonna ask you guys hard questions. I'm gonna ask you questions about y'all's faith. I'm gonna ask you questions that make you guys think and make you want to ask me questions about different things, and stuff.
That's actually
that,
why I jumped in here.
Yeah.
I was curious if you had any questions about what we were talking about last week, I think.
So about like you and Kevin like having different beliefs.
Yeah, and even just the religion or the faith that I have, I guess. If you had any questions about that, because I don't know if you've met anybody with the same faith as me, or.
So remind me
predicament.
what it is that you believe.
So I am pagan, and Kevin is Roman Catholic, so okay. Very different beliefs. Pagans very, very much believe in, there's different things, different branches of it, just like there's different branches of Christianity. Some believe in multiple gods, some believe in one god, some believe in two gods. The main overall ruling is the power of three. So anything you put out into the universe will come back to you threefold or three times. And if it harms none, do what ye will. That's like our general hard and fast rule, which is if it doesn't harm you, other people, future generations, or the earth, then you are free to do it, and you are not under any kind of moral peril, to put it lightly.
Interesting.
Yes.
So,
and of course we have beliefs around marriage and stuff like that.
So you said that different ones believe in different things. Like people believe in like 3 gods, 2 gods, 1 god, like all like multiple gods. Like you said they believe in different things like that, right? And but the main thing is that people believe that things are threefold. So who decides how many gods there are? Who decides this? What do you guys base y'all's faith off of? Like your beliefs.
So generally it falls under the Earth Mother and the so the Mother Goddess and the Horned God, and they are seen as kind of a husband and wife, 2 sides of the same coin thing. That is the general gods that pagans believe in, that one cannot exist without the other, and they go together. Anything that goes beyond that, multiple gods or 1 god, is just different branches of that. So it's I'm trying to figure out how to explain it properly. But it's just different branches. It's most of them believe in the 2 gods, and then others will believe, oh, there's 1 god above them. Or there's multiple gods under them.
Interesting. So what is there like a book that y'all read that tells all of this stuff and like has like a general consensus of like everything that you
Yeah, it's called the Book of Shadows.
Book of Shadows. Interesting.
And the Book of Shadows is So a lot of pagans believe in like that the elements have a spirit to them, that they are something that can be drawn from power. You can pray to the elements for help, for protection, for guidance. There's different rituals. Paganism is often associated with Satanism because there's confusion between the two.
Right.
We don't believe in Satan. That is more of a Christianity-based belief.
Right.
But we do rituals, and we do have the pentagram and things like that. And a lot of people be like, "Oh, that's Satanism." It's like, no, we don't believe in Satan.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Kevin is very much follows the Bible.
That's a new one because I haven't heard that one. I don't know too much about pagans, so that's actually. I appreciate you like letting me ask questions about that because that's actually very interesting.
Oh, I'm more than happy.
Huh.
Like I wouldn't be having this conversation and talking about it if I thought you were gonna be like rude about it. And I know you're asking because you're genuinely curious and you want to know. You don't have any ill intention.
Oh no, and that's what's. I hope nobody hops in my stream and like hears me like talking about my beliefs and hears me asking people about their beliefs and thinks that I'm coming at it in some malice way, that I'm trying to shove Christianity down people's throats, because that's not my goal. God doesn't need me to defend him. And yes, I'm called to bring the knowledge and talk about Jesus to different nations, to different people, but I'm not called to shove it down their throats and make them believe. That was never my job. So I do just like hearing what other people like why people believe in what they believe. Like, what is it that makes them want to believe those things? So what is it?
I was raised Roman Catholic. Like, I was baptized, went through the church and everything. That's how my parents raised me. I went to church on holidays. I was just in church a few months ago. But it wasn't for me. It was for respect to somebody who had died. Right, and it was because I loved that person and I cared about them and I wanted to show my respect to them in a way that they wanted, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you said you grew up like Catholic?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So it's crazy because I
baptized, went through everything.
Yeah. So I don't fully believe in everything that Easy believes in. I don't fully believe in a lot of things, like a lot of the ways.
What makes you not believe in Satan? Satan is it's from the Bible. It's a Christian or Catholic belief. It's like Christian and Catholics believe in God. That is their belief. That is their construct. Satan is a Christian or Catholic construct. Pagans, we don't share that same construct. It's not something that is ever really referenced to us, because we don't necessarily. We believe in good and bad is not black and white in paganism. It's more of a spectrum, and there's the light path and the dark path, and that's kind of, hopefully I'm explaining that right in a way that's not confusing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's see, let me catch up with chat since I obviously hadn't done that.
What made you switch? I started to struggle very hard in my beliefs in the Catholic Church. Certain things about it didn't sit right with me, especially with the way that it was taught to me, through the church, through pastors, through priests.
Understandable.
I didn't fully, the beliefs that I was taught didn't fully align with who I am. And I couldn't, something didn't sit right with me. It's a deeper feeling. Like, to this day, I will go to a church. I will sit in church. If it's an end of life celebration, I will sit there. I will listen. I will, when I was in school, I was in church choir. Like, it just, something in it never felt right for me. It didn't strike a chord in my soul. Mm-hmm. So I ended up finding paganism, and it was something that truly felt right to me. And I practice paganism nearly every day through rituals. That's kind of when we switched. It was just like feeling in my chest.
So what was it that didn't sit right with you? Because I don't, like I said, I don't believe the same things that Catholics believe, in a lot of different senses. They're very orthodox, and they have to jump through a lot of hoops to become
Yeah.
quote unquote Catholic and be like you have to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to be called a Catholic.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it's
to be able to
insane.
believe, and I don't agree with that. But so like, what was it that I guess that didn't sit right with you, about Catholicism? If you don't mind me asking, like.
Oh no, you can ask me anything. It's completely fine. I'm very open and very willing to talk about it. What didn't sit right with me was trying to figure out how to word this properly. So you'll have to excuse if I take pauses here.
No, you're good.
It was that I had to follow the Bible to be considered this this good person, and it felt like no matter what I did, if I didn't full-heartedly, absolutely 100% believe and trust in God, then I was not getting into heaven. I was just going to go to hell and suffer in damnation. And it was an awful feeling as a kid to have that feeling, of course. And some of the beliefs, a lot of the Catholic Church not all Catholic churches, but some Catholic churches, the one that I was in, did show signs of homophobia, which I didn't understand at the time. I was like, well, I don't understand why these two people can't love each other and it's okay. That didn't sit right with me.
Were you here for that conversation? Because somebody asked me that just a few minutes ago.
No.
Okay.
And yeah, just like, it didn't feel right to me that I had to follow this book down to the letter and just to be considered a good person. And if I didn't fully 100% wholeheartedly believe in God, it didn't matter how good of a person I wasn't getting into heaven. And I would have to go and confess my sins, which half the time it didn't feel like they were sins. It was me learning how to be a person. And if I didn't confess, then I was doomed. And it just, I don't know. It never sat right with me or felt right.
It's understandable. I get that 100%. And that's kind of one thing that me and Easy talked about. Is it seems like Easy's Catholicism sits a lot closer to Christianity than what the normal Catholicism, like Catholic Church believes. Like their main basis believes. Because exactly what you just explained is a lot of what I've heard from like Catholicism now that I've started to do some like research on it and like ask around. Kind of like get from like actual like what the like Catholicism says. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around, because in the way that I believe is that, like in the way that Christianity says, is that we all fall short. None of us are perfect. None of us are going to be a perfect person. Yes, we're modeled in the image of a perfect person, but we will never be perfect. Every single one of us, and I've used this verse like 1,500 times tonight. It says, like the Bible says that we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. It's like every single person is not going to be perfect. That will never happen. And in my beliefs is there was only one perfect person that's ever walked this earth. So I completely understand like that's a hard thing to like look at, and especially as a kid to think like I've got to be some type of perfect person. And it hurts me to like hear
it's a lot of pressure.
It is. It's a massive amount of pressure, and I love the fact like the way that I've grown up real like being able to realize that it's not about that. Like I never had to feel that pressure of I've got to be a perfect person. Yes. Yeah. There's different things that I'm not supposed to do. Like obviously there's right and wrong, just like anybody else sees right or has right and wrong, but like I don't have to worry about the fact that I'm not going to be the perfect person. Just like a little kid is going to do something bad and their mom and dad's gonna spank them, or they're gonna tell them like they're gonna yell at them or whatever they choose to use as their punishment. That little kid's gonna realize, oh well, that I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably won't do that again. And it's learning experiences, and you'll fall and you'll get right back up and go right back to it. And I just think that's very interesting. Like. And I can see where that would like what would push you away from that. I never understood all the different hoops that Catholicism like makes people jump through, and makes them feel like they have like if they aren't perfect, then they're not going to go to heaven. Like, that's not the
Yeah.
point.
And like Kevin he didn't understand Buddhism, when we first met.
Mhm.
And the first thing that, like, on our first date that Kevin and I ever went on, like, it was a hot day, so he was wearing a t-shirt, and all I saw around his neck was the gold cross. That is very much a symbol of Roman Catholicism, like the pure gold cross. And it was, yeah, that was a little shocking for me. But like even on Christmas, for example, he went to church with his mom. He has a lot of the beliefs, except I want to say they're almost more modern because we had discussed, I was like, okay, well, what happens if you have a child and it's gay? And he goes, okay, and he's like, it's still my child. It's still
Right.
my flesh and blood. It's still something that I made and I love. And that was a shock for me because it was very different from what I had heard. And even my nonna, who is the most religious woman ever, I asked her opinion on the gay community. She's like, okay, and like it's normal. So some churches are shifting and others aren't, because there's other people in my family who are still Roman Catholic who still don't believe in it, don't like it, it's unholy, and other people who are like, okay, it's fine, it's normal.
Right.
So
So
I think the church is in the middle of shifting almost.
So I'm gonna retouch on what I was talking about earlier, because I feel like from what you've talked about, and especially this topic, I did have somebody ask me about this exact same topic earlier. And actually, let me catch up with chat, and then I'll tell you what I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm
just
I understand the
making
Bible
some
is for
dinner.
people who believe that faith, but it shouldn't be used as an excuse to make laws on people who don't believe in those sins. For example, prohibition, gay right, and abortion. Faith based off of culture, what is passed on from a family line. That is a way that religion and faith is passed down a lot throughout history, and that was always interesting to me. It's like watching how religion gets passed on through different generations, especially through culture. Especially in like the
Previous
Middle
generation
Eastern
usually
side.
teaches the new generation.
Yeah. Especially in like Middle Eastern countries, like when we were talking like back in like the 16th, 17th century, stuff like that. Or like even farther back, like when like Mesopotamia and like all those like the really, really old places, and like Egypt and stuff. Like it was really always interesting for me to learn that stuff. Let's see. Demonic asks, how do you believe about abortion as a Christian? Is it mentioned in the Bible about it? If so, what does it say? And then, do you think it's okay for Christians or any religion to not follow everything in the Bible? Like if you feel it's not right, but some things you feel are right, so you still claim you are that religion. So I'm gonna answer both of those questions. Personal belief. I do feel like abortion is wrong. I do believe that that it is murder, depending on depending on the how you look. I believe it's murder regardless, but I don't know exactly in the Bible where it talks about it. There's a couple different places that like. Obviously, back then it was a little bit different because there wasn't necessarily the same type of surgical method that we see now. But I will 100%, if you would like me to, I'll 100% do some research and get back to you on that specific topic. If that's something you would like me to do, because I'd be more than happy to go research it. I mean, it's a very relevant topic in today's society that I should probably know about a little bit more in the Bible, of what the Bible says about it. So I'd be more than happy to actually look at that for you. So question 2 is, do you think it's okay for Christians to not follow everything in the Bible? Like if you feel like it's not right, but some things you feel are right, so you still claim you are that religion. So I can only speak on like what I personally believe and think about it, because like I said, I'm not here to judge people. I 100% believe that everything that is in this book right here is true. And the problem is that it's all about context and how you like reading it, and what the will of God will have me to do, like what in the way that I follow in His will. and following his footsteps, is that's going to be what's right and wrong. And the thing is, like, it's black and white. So like what he says is like right and wrong for the most part. So it's not about, in my opinion, you can't just pick. So you can't just cherry pick and pick like, oh, this is right, I'm gonna take this out, and then like, oh well, I don't agree with that, so I'm not gonna have to use that. Like, in that case, you don't believe that everything is true. And for you to really be a Christian and believe in God and Jesus, you got to believe the word, like the word of what He says. Because it says in the Bible, or it says that God is the Word. It's the living Word. And in that situation, if God is the Word, for you to believe in God, you also have to believe in everything the Bible says is true. So, if we're talking about Christians in specific, then I feel like if that's the case, you have to believe everything that's true in this. Now, claiming that religion or whatever, we talked about this last week. Can you have faith without belief first? And my thing is you can't, because belief is that you have to. It's like the acceptance that something exists, and then faith is full trust or confidence in something. So to be able to claim that you're a religion, you have to have belief in that religion. And for me, again, you can't have belief or you can't have faith in. You have to have faith in religion to be that religion. If you don't have faith, or if you don't have belief, then you can't have faith. So if you don't believe everything that religion says, then you don't have true faith in that religion. You don't fully agree with it. You don't fully have trust in it. You don't fully have confidence in that religion. Then you can't really call yourself a follower of that religion if you don't believe in it in the first place. At least that's the way I look at it. And people may disagree, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with people disagreeing. That's just the way I look at it. That's the way I see things. And at the end of the day, I'm not really too worried about other religions, because I don't believe those other religions. But let me pull up my live scene and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If anybody wants to see the full definitions of these things that I'm talking about. We talked about this last stream. Let me drop my webcam so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about.
Real quick, I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually agree with you as well. I think that you can't cherry pick your religion. Mm-hmm. You can't cherry pick from this and that and this and that. Like, I feel like if you're gonna believe in something and you're gonna say you're a believer, then you believe full-heartedly, and that is what you commit to. To cherry pick it's not, I don't know, to me it doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. But that's also my opinion.
I'm actually curious to what Google says the definition of religion is. Let's find out. The belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. So there's that word belief again. So faith, this is for the stream, here you go. Is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Belief is an acceptance that something exists. So again, with religion being the belief in personal god or gods, problem is you can't have faith, can't have trust or confidence in something if you don't first agree, or first think that it exists. And secondly, if you don't have belief in something, then you don't have a belief in actual religion if you don't believe that everything about it exists. So that's my opinion based off the definitions of those words. To answer, hopefully that answers your question that you were asking.
Carnegie says, "Good talk. It was nice hearing your POV. I respect your opinions. I'm gonna go play some Rebirth. Y'all have a good stream /talk."
Yo, Carnage, go wax the floor with them noobs. 100%. Go fry it up. Cook it up. Because 100%, you gotta go out, drop 30 bombs. 100%. You got it. Got the power of the Panther in you. I got you. Go out there and slay it up. But yeah, Luna. So Danielle had hopped in here and asked. She was like, if I thought, actually, I'll read exactly what she said, so I don't get it wrong. So it says, do you believe in that God wanted a man to be with a woman, and that if you're bi, gay, lesbian, that it's a sin, and that people who are go to hell? Yo, what's up, Flutter? What'd it do? Welcome to the stream.
Do I feel that way?
So no, that's what Danielle or
Okay.
Demonic had asked me earlier, before you had hopped in. So,
Okay.
so she had asked that before you hopped in, and I gave my answer to it. So I'm going to give that answer again, in a little bit shorter way, because it took a little while for me to answer that. Carnage, have a great night. Get it going. You got it. Flutter, I hope your ad's over now. Welcome into the stream. Great to see you in here. Always a pleasure to have you in here. But so basically, the way I look at things, let me start with this. There are a lot of things that technically will get you to hell. Any type of sin in the Bible says that for the wages of sin are death. So any sin will get you to hell. But and this is the major but, this is the whole part of Christianity, this is the whole story of Christianity, is Jesus came down and died on the cross to save us from that said sin. All sin in the past that we committed, all sin that we will commit in the future, all of that is what he came down to and paid in full. He paid that wage. He paid that debt that we owed that he didn't owe. And so what's cool is that it doesn't matter what the sin is it's already been paid in full. All we have to do is accept that he existed and believe in him and trust in him, and he'll wash that away. So my belief is there are a lot of things that are considered sin, and there are a lot of things that will get you to hell. All of that is explained exactly in right and wrong in the Bible as to what is and what isn't. My thing is, I'm not called to judge people. I'm called to love. I'm not called to hate people. Again, I'm called to love and to be friends with everybody. Not necessarily be friends with everybody, but to love everyone. So my thing about that specifically is the Bible specifically states that for a man to lay with another man is an abomination, and is a sin. But like I said, I'm not going to judge those people that are like that. And the thing is yes, it says that it's a sin, but it says it's a sin just like it says that lust is a sin. It says sexual immorality is a sin. Getting absolutely plastered, and just like it says lying, cheating, stealing, all of these things are still sin that will get you to hell. And what's so cool is it's all covered in when Jesus died. And the thing that's so cool is that people are like, well, does that mean that I can be a Christian and be gay, be bi, be lesbian, whatever? Technically, yes. But the thing is, the question I have to ask is, once you become a Christian, your goal isn't just to go out and tell people about Jesus, tell people about God. Your goal is also to pick up your cross, follow him, and try to become more like him, try to live your life like him, and follow in the footsteps and follow where he will have you to go. And the thing is what I've seen over and over again, and what I've seen in my life, what I've seen in people's lives around me, is that temptation will always still be there. Just like the temptation for lust, the temptation for greed, the temptation to lie and cheat and steal, like all of those temptations will always still be around. And even more so once you become a Christian, because it says in the Bible that we'll be persecuted, that we'll actually have go through harder times once you become a Christian than when you weren't. But what's crazy is that once you become a Christian, that the want to do those things isn't going to be there. If you're following what he has you to do and the will that he has, you're not going to want to do those things that aren't in that will as much. So yes, I think it's a sin, and yes, it will get you to hell just like any other thing will. But if you accept Jesus and in the fact that he's paid that debt in full, it doesn't matter. And I don't mean it doesn't matter in the fact, well, it doesn't matter if you can do whatever you want. Don't mean that, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, if that's what Christians believe, then that gives them a get out of jail free card to do whatever they want, whenever they want. That's bad. And that gives them a crutch. A lot of people use the word crutch. Technically, yeah, it would give people a crutch, but you're not supposed to use it like that. That's not
Yeah.
the goal. That's not how you're supposed to use it. The idea is that once you have that there, just like a little kid, and this is what you talked about. One of the things that you didn't agree with Catholicism is that you felt like if you made a mistake, then you had to go confess, and that if you weren't perfect, that you were gonna go to hell, right? That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
So, what's so cool with the way that we believe is that, just like any little kid that's going to do something wrong and that's going to fall and scrape their knee, it's going to heal within a couple of days, and they're going to be right back in there, but they're going to remember, oh, well, if I ran around the pool and I fell and scraped my knee, I probably shouldn't run around the pool from now on. And it's the same thing you see across the Bible and see across people all over history is like, Jesus comes in and he pays that price, and even though they still mess up throughout their entire lives, that's what's so cool is like Jesus has paid every single one of those, like the debt for every single one of those sins. So the idea is that we don't use it as a crutch. We start living closer to what he would have us to live and try to stay in that. But even if we do fall short, and every time that we do fall short, he's paid in full that debt. So it's not like we want to go do those bad things. Sometimes like we're not good people. I'm not a good person. I'm a pretty terrible person, pretty crappy person, not gonna lie. At times, I don't want to be that. I don't strive to be that. I strive to be a better person. I try to walk in what he asks me to walk, but sometimes I still fell in that. I still fall to my temptations sometimes, and that's not always great, but it happens. And I get back up and I pick myself back up, and I'm stronger next time because I'm like, this is how it turned out last time. I probably shouldn't do this. That's kind of where I'm at on it. But that's my whole thing about being bi, gay, lesbian, whatever. Like, and that's a huge topic in politics right now. It's a huge topic across the world. Is people hate on all these people, and they judge them. They show nothing but hate. And the problem is, I was never called to hate people, and that drives me nuts. And it kills me about. So many people are turned away from the Christian faith. They're turned away from God, from Jesus, because they feel like people are going to shove it down their throat and tell them they're going straight to hell just because they're gay or just because they're lesbian. But the thing is like, that's not their call. They don't get to decide that. They don't get to make that decision. They don't get to judge people for that, and they shouldn't be hating on people for that. I should be loving people just like that, just like I would anybody else.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Because at the end of the day, yes, that's a sin. Yes, it's a little bit more noticeable. It's a little bit easier to see. But at the end of the day, little Cassandra that's down here going out and getting with her next door neighbor every Saturday night, and they're getting wasted and then having sex every Saturday night, and then she goes to church the next Sunday morning. Doesn't really have anywhere to talk when she comes to and sees a gay guy, and she's like, "Oh, well, you're going to hell." Like that's not the point. And it hurts me because there's always there's bad apples in the bunch that will treat people like that, and then they look like a hypocrite because they're out here doing just as bad stuff. It kills me.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's my look on it. That's what the Bible says about it. And that's kind of where I'm at on it. But like I said, I'm not gonna hate people for it. Like and a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, you don't agree with that? Well, you're homophobic." No,
Yeah.
I just don't agree with what they're doing. I cannot agree with something and not support something, but not hate the people because they're doing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So.
So I found some stuff about paganism that I think you might be interested in hearing.
Okay.
This is more of better wording of what I was saying about what pagans believe in. So pagans believe that nature is sacred and that the natural cycles of birth, growth, and death observed in the world around us carry profoundly spiritual meanings. Human beings are seen as part of nature along with other animals, trees, stones, plants, and everything and everything else that is of this earth. Most pagans believe in some form of reincarnation, viewing death as a transition within a continuing process of existence. So yeah, pretty much what pagans believe is you are the earth is you. It's one and the same. You belong to the earth. The earth doesn't belong to you, sort of thing.
Okay.
And women in paganism are seen as a form of divinity. That's not saying that they're better than men or that they are above men, but that they have different advantages than men. But we also believe that men cannot exist without women, and vice versa is the true. Women cannot exist without men. It's two sides of the same coin, and you need each other to exist.
Okay.
Um,
So out of curiosity, so how does that, speaking of, how does that fit with being bi or lesbian or transgender or any of that stuff?
it's seen as natural to us because we're all part of the earth, so it doesn't matter.
Interesting.
Both exist, whether you are gay, trans, bi, you came from a man and woman at the end. But what you are doesn't matter.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of interesting. Trying to think. Our wedding rituals are slightly different than the Christian or Catholic ones, but not by much. It's something that Kevin and I had discussed. We don't really. That's trying to think what else. Medical. I know some religions, they won't allow blood transfusions. I don't know if that's the belief for Christianity.
We're
Like
cool with
organ
that.
donation.
There's no problem with it.
Okay, yeah. So same thing as us. There's no problem with organ donation, blood transfusions, anything like that. It's like, okay, well, we're part of the earth. It's part of you. If I'm not going to use it, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, a lot of pagans are vegetarian or vegan. I am not. I enjoy meat as much as the next person. But I do try to find it ethically, in the sense of, if I can shop local, if I can support a local business that is ethical, then I will, rather than have it be transported by a fucking huge ass, sorry, I don't know if I can swear, by a huge truck. If I can avoid that and I can have it be local and it's not as much carbon emissions, then I will 100% do that every single time.
Interesting.
But Kevin and I had discussed child rearing, wedding, how we would want everything to play out, how we would merge it. I don't know, that was something that interested you?
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting thought, because, like, it's just hard for me to wrap my head around
Yeah.
raising a kid and having to fight over whether we get to go to church on Sunday, whether we get to, like what stories I get to tell my kids about, all of that good stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
did you have a specific question, or should I just ramble?
Whatever you want to do. If you want to ramble, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I'll just put it out there if you had a specific question first, and if not, then I'll just start explaining stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. There's not really any, like, specific questions. I just, it's a very interesting thing to me, of, like, because, like, for him, like, are y'all going to go to church every Sunday? And, like, what does he get to tell your kids, like, Bible stories of, like, what's in the Bible? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, what?
Yeah.
I guess.
So, I'll start with the wedding practices. I've expressed to him that I don't want to get married in a church. It's not, I want to be married in nature. I want to be married outdoors, ideally. That's something I want. And he goes, okay, I accept that, but I want to be married by a priest. And that's how we kind of compromise on that.
That's fair.
Okay, I want to be married outside, and he wants a priest there. All right, we'll do it. One thing that pagans believe in is hand fasting at weddings. So it's when you and your partner, you take hands, either both hands or one hand, and they are wrapped together with 3 strands of cord or ribbon or rope. And they are staying together until the end of the ceremony. And I told him that's something that I want.
Interesting.
And he said, okay. And then we moved on to, we talked about child rearing. Weird question. If you have kids, are you going to let them pick which one they want to believe in, and will you teach them both? We will be teaching them both. That is something that we have decided. He will teach the Catholicism, I will teach the paganism. that's what we decided. Like, he said, well, I want our children baptized. And I said, okay, I respect that. If that's what you want, then we will have them baptized. I will be there. I will support him. I will support everything there. I will be involved. I will be in it because it makes him happy. And as a pagan, we believe in soulmates. And if it's something my soulmate wants, then I 100% should be there to support and love him and not tear him down. That is not why I'm there. That is not why I marry him. So I will be involved. And I said, okay, you want them baptized? I respect that. I want to teach them about my rituals. I want to teach them about the rule of 3. And he goes, okay. And I told him, like, in our house, we will be respecting nature. You know, we don't litter. Ever since we got together, I told him, I was like, we don't litter in this relationship. No littering. We compost. We recycle. Anything we can get local, homegrown, we do. We try to. And in terms of religious teachings, okay, I'll teach them the rule of 3. I'll teach them rituals. I'll do rituals with them. If you want to teach them about God, go for it. If you want them to go to church, they will go to church. They will learn to respect both religions. If at a certain age they decide, I don't want to do this religion, I want to do this other one, then we as parents will respect that and respect them to make their own choice for what they want. Because at the end of the day, I made them, I brought them into this world, but I also have to recognize that they are a human being, they are a person, they have their own free will.
So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know which. I know that Catholicism and Christianity are both from the same like trunk, and I know they from like Easy, like he believes everything the Bible, like it's in the Bible, and I'm assuming that that's probably the case for Kevin as well, for the most part. So, I can't find the verse off the top of my head. I can't think of what exactly it says about it, but I know if somewhere it mentions paganism in the Bible, and so like. Basically, it talks about it not being a good thing. Like it from what I remember, it talks about it and says something along the lines of it not being good, and something happens to whatever city or whatever place it was that their main religion was paganism in the Bible. So wherever paganism and Catholicism, I guess, cross, and like. So if that's the case, when it gets to that point and those questions get asked of like, well, Dad, if Kevin's dad, if they come home and they're like, well, Dad, the Bible says this about what Mom believes. I guess how will you, I guess, deal with that? Because if that's the case, like the Bible's going to say that that's not okay, whereas because it does, it said, or is in somewhere. I know that. In the Ten Commandments, it says they'll have no other idols before him, or no other no other gods before him as well. So how will you, I guess, deal with those questions when the time comes?
Yeah. So really quick to answer the question in chat, would it be okay if they didn't want to believe in anything? Absolutely. To me, if they don't want to believe anything, that is their choice.
Yep. It
is their right as a person. They can believe in what they want or they cannot believe. I will never dictate that for them. But to answer your question, Panther, so I would not teach my children about the gods that I believe in. The gods, they would know, okay, well, mommy believes in something else different. It's not, they don't believe in the same thing, but they respect each other. If they have questions specifically about what I believe in, then I would be like, okay, this is what I believe in. With Kevin's understanding. I would never go behind Kevin's back and be like, oh, these are the gods and these are the goddesses and this is what I believe in. And, you know, it would never become that. It would be, well, I would teach them about the rituals and the elements and the things that I invoke, because when I do my rituals, I don't invoke the gods or the goddesses. It's not something I do. I mostly invoke elements, energies, things like that. That's what I would mostly teach. But if they had the question of, well, the Bible says that mom's going to hell because she doesn't believe in that, then that would be a conversation that Kevin and I would have to have together on how best to approach it to them. Because you don't want your kid to sit there and be like, oh my God, my mom's she's going to be damned because she doesn't believe in the same thing. Like, it would have to become a conversation between Kevin and I'd be like, okay, how do we explain this in kid-friendly terms that it's easy for them to understand and that doesn't scare them? Because that'd be my biggest concern, right? Is scaring my child.
Yeah.
And then when you scare a child, you sway them one way or another.
And see, that's my thing of like with religion. You can't force somebody to believe something. That's believing something. Just like
It
we
has
look at
to
the
come from within
definitions. Yeah, just like we've looked at the definition of belief, you have to be able to accept that something exists. And if you don't fully actually believe that it exists, then you really don't have belief in something, and you can't force anybody to actually believe that something exists. So that's kind of I get that. That's kind of crazy.
In the Bible, for example, I believe there is something about premarital sex.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have it, if I'm correct.
Oh yeah, you're definitely not supposed to. People, that temptation is always there, and a lot of people, like I said, fall short of the glory of God, and
they'll
do it.
In paganism, we don't believe in that. We don't believe in premarital sex is bad. Sex is sex. You're gonna have it, and it's something that is powerful. Like, that's our views on. Like, I feel like in Christianity or even Catholicism, and you can correct me here if I'm wrong. Feel free to. But it's almost like it's taboo to talk about sex or to have sex if you are not married. And in paganism, it's like, okay, you can have sex. People know you're going to do it. But understand that it is powerful. It is a power combining two souls like that. And you will be connected to that person.
Yeah,
and
so we believe a lot of that. The only difference is that obviously, like, Christians believe that premarital, like, you're not supposed to have premarital sex. Like, sex isn't a topic that we're not supposed to talk about. It's kind of an awkward conversation to have with people. Because you got to think.
Yeah, like, we think premarital sex is fine.
Because people are looking at it through the eyes of of the world, of like normal, like society has made sex in general normal and has made it a relaxed thing. Like, I assume you'll probably even agree with me on that. It's like they've made it not seem like it matters whatsoever. Whereas, like, even you said, like, it's important, it's powerful. So, like, even like the world today is moving towards a place of making it not seem like it even matters that much. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And that's kind of where that's kind of where Christianity differs. Is like it's a sacred thing, just like you said, for us, and it is definitely something powerful and something that will connect you to that person for the rest of your life. The only difference that we have is like that's supposed to be sacred between after marriage between the two people that are married. And again, like I said, there's so many Christians that I know, so many people that I know that haven't lived by that, and they've again fallen short and have fell to that temptation. And it's something that they'll have to deal with for the rest of their life. They'll have to answer those questions. They'll have to deal with the consequences of that. But at the end of the day, it's still wasn't what they were supposed to do, but we're covered by that,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for us, it's
that's
just
no problem, Demonic. You're more than welcome to ask whatever you want to. That's the whole point of me being
I'm
here.
okay to answer sensitive topics as well. I'm more than okay because this is, a respectful place. I mean, Panther and I have different views of religions, but we're still friends and we're still talking. Yeah. But yeah, like, sex isn't something that is really shunned away from because we use sex as a power. Just like we invoke the elements, we can invoke the power of sex because it is powerful. But like, knowing that the belief of paganism in the soul and the spirit and the power is, you share that with somebody and it is special. But that is something that individuals decide, and much less a marriage. I mean, we definitely use erotic symbolism in paganism. There's penis candles. That's a thing. That is invoking the power of sex without having sex, but it's invoking that power. It's
I'm gonna need some more like context, some more background information for that one because that one's just really that was a lot. Like my brain is not comprehending that one. That one was a lot for me. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, give me. I'm gonna need some more context for that. Like what? Like what? Like penis scandals.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out how best to explain it. Let me do some research so I give you a proper.
Okay. Yeah, because that's a lot for me. Penis
Yeah,
scandals.
like it's not something to shy away from.
Even Demonic's like, excuse me, what? Me too. I feel that. Wow, that one threw me for a loop. Was not expecting that.
Yeah, so sex is very powerful. All right, pagans believe it's powerful. It is an intense thing. In the old pagan days, there was something called the Great Rite. So we have something called. So our church system is called a coven.
Right.
It's just dick shaped. It's not scented. It's penis shaped, not scented. Okay, so in the olden pagan days, in covens there is a high priest and a high priestess. If the coven had fallen on extremely trying times, it was make or break. The coven is breaking down. We need some sort of saving. There was something called the Great Rite. It is not performed anymore. Or it is performed very rarely in very specific locations that are not really North America. But it's a ritual involving sexual intercourse. It is symbolic, and there's also actual sex. But men are usually represented by a dagger. Women are presented as a chalice. Dagger is put in chalice. High priest and high priestess go and have sex, and is seen as it's such an intense combination and explosion of power that it would save the coven. Yeah. So, in the symbolic version, the high priestess plunges the ritual knife into a cup or chalice, which is filled with wine and is held by the high priest. The Great Rite symbolizes creation in the union of the maiden goddess, which is what I was mentioning before, and the horned god. It is known as a fertility rite. So, if a lot of people in the coven are struggling with fertility, then this would be something that is done. To answer that question. But penis candles, they are sometimes used. I have not used them. But it is to invoke sex as a power, and it is to invoke male energy, because male energy is seen as having different benefits than feminine energy. Again, it doesn't mean it's better, it's just different, and it's used for different purposes. Hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, that answered it. I've never heard anything like that before, so that was very interesting.
Yeah. And
I don't
usually
really know how. My brain's still kind of like trying to wrap itself around that one. Like it's sitting here like thinking about that. So, yeah.
Usually the high priest and the high priestess are in a relationship. Any kind of sex magic that is usually done is within a couple.
Yeah. So y'all like believe in like magic, like y'all like do like magic basically.
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
I feel for me personally, it's the power of intention. So any ritual I do, it's not like I'm going to light this candle and I'm going to become a millionaire.
Right. Yeah.
That's not what I believe in. I'm never just gonna sit there and be like, I'm gonna do this ritual and someone's gonna fall in love with me and that'll be it and I will rule the world. Like, no, it's never that. It's more if I do a ritual, for example, money. A money ritual. It's something very basic, something a lot of people do. You would do it, but you still have to try to make it happen for yourself as a person, like as a human. Like you can't just be like, power of intention, I'm going to become a millionaire and money's going to fall into my lap. It's like, okay, do this ritual, do all the steps, but still go out and apply for jobs.
Right.
Like, still go out and be a functioning member of society. Don't just think it's magically going to fall into your lap, because that's not going to happen. Or it's like protection spells. Which dipshit candle did you like to find me?
Flutter got all the serious questions. She's got the ones that matter. That's what I'm getting out of this right now. I love it.
I have never used a penis-shaped candle. I have definitely invoked the elements. I have definitely done rituals before. I have an element that I am more aligned to. I have a god that I am drawn to. But I have never used penis-shaped candles. I am sorry to disappoint. But yeah, so like protection spell is something that I genuinely do. But it's more so for me, so protection against negative energies from within myself, like anxiety, which for me is meditation. Sometimes if I'm really anxious, I will do meditation at night. I use crystals to help me with that energy.
Oh, you wanted them crystal girls.
I'm one of them crystal girl. No. I have literally 3 crystals. Okay, let's not get crazy here. Crystals are expensive.
I give people a hard time over that. I don't know why. But that's always been one thing that I always have always joked about. It's like people that like do all the crystal stuff. Like,
I'm not gonna sit there and be like, this crystal is gonna take away my headache. No,
Yeah.
The Tylenol that
cracks
I take
me
will
up.
take away my
100% cracks me up. I don't know what that is. Why I find that like the crystal things that specifically funny. I've always found that funny.
No, like if I have a headache, I'm not gonna sit there with a crystal on my forehead.
Right.
I'm gonna take an Advil and I'm gonna go to bed. For example, I use black kyanite. I use that in my meditation. I meditate with it 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, but about 2 to 3 times a week. And black kyanite is known for energies. It's known for centering. So I'll sit there with it and I will think of all the things that make me anxious, and I will use I will imagine like roots extending from me into the earth, and I use that stone to draw that energy out of me, like that negative anxiety energy into me and into the stone. And then I have to go and cleanse it and all that. It's a whole process, but I don't use it for anything physical ailments, like
right.
Mostly for energies, emotions, things like that. I have a collection of tarot cards that I use. That's another thing pagans use a lot of, is tarot cards. I've done readings for myself. I've done readings for other people. I have never done a reading for Kevin because I wouldn't do it without his consent. If he sat there and he was like, hey, do a reading for me, I would. But I would never sit there and do a reading for him without his knowledge, because that's just not okay.
And not even just that, but just that question I asked you earlier about like what you guys would do. That was something I did read. Is like it says in the Bible that we are not supposed to go to mediums or to any type of like reading type thing or anything like that, because it says something along the lines of like anybody that goes to that, he will cut from their population or whatever, and like will kind of like it's I don't remember exactly what it said, but basically we're not supposed to do that. Basically, so that Kevin would not be cool.
I do it for myself. I will share with him my readings for myself. I'm like, hey, this is what the card said, and he's like, oh, okay, babe, like that's really good, or oh, that's like I hope you feel better. But he's like I would never, ever. Doesn't matter if it was for Kevin, for you, for anybody, I would never do a reading for somebody or do anything with rituals if it was not their explicit consent.
Yeah.
If they did not give me their consent to do it, it's unspeakable for me to even do that. I would never do it without intention, they would have to come to me and be like, hey, can you do this for me? Otherwise, it's like, absolutely not. I'm not touching it. Like, nope, get away from me. Like,
right.
And he's never expressed interest in me. I have never asked him. And, if he ever came to me and was like, hey, can you do it? I would. But he's never has. So I'm not really worried about it. I don't think you should be doing anything to anybody without consent, spiritual or not.
So, side note, I think I made somebody mad because I lost a follower. I can see my follower count and it's just dropped one. I think I made somebody mad this stream. It's quite disappointing, but it's okay. It's bound to happen with the conversations we're having.
Yeah.
Some people just won't be able to.
Yeah.
be okay
I'm
with
trying to
that.
think.
But...
Like, what I use crystals, tarot cards, talismans occasionally. It's not one I really do often. I use essential oils, but that's
See,
more so for my
I feel like
anxiety.
essential oils aren't a problem though.
No, like
Because
for
essential
example,
oils aren't necessarily just for that. Yo, Flutter, thanks for follow. Welcome to the Panther Kingdom. I appreciate you hopping in.
like for example, if Kevin is stressed out, I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, are you okay if I help you with that? He's like, yeah. I'll put like a little bit of like lavender oil on my hands, which is calming, and then I'll massage the back of his neck. Like that's nothing. There's nothing magical about that. There's nothing like
Yeah.
spiritual. It's like
Well,
I just want
it's
to
no
help
different than
you.
any type of normal medication.
Exactly.
Peppermint will do. There's something with peppermint and then eucalyptus leaves, or like eucalyptus.
Eucalyptus helps with asthma.
Not only that, but it also helps. There's something else it helps with. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head right now. And then one of them, it's not spearmint. What's one that smells really, really bad? And I can't think of what it's called. But you can put them on warts, and it'll make the warts go away. Crap, what is it called? My little brother had.
I don't know what it's
one or
called,
two
but
on
I
his
know what you're
side,
talking about.
but they went away. Oh man, it's like a very normal thing.
Hold on. It's an essential oil that smells really bad.
Yeah, it stinks.
For warts, is it? Are you thinking of tea tree oil?
No.
Okay, because I was like, that
That
does
stuff
not
is the
smell bad.
bomb though, because it goes. I have that
It
in my
smells so
shampoo.
good. It
I have that in
smells
my
so good.
shampoo all done. Soap, shampoo. You can drop some tea tree oil on my shampoo any day.
I'm trying to think. Like
Liquid
what could-
nitrogen. They do use. That is one way to be able to
They
get rid
do.
of warts. That is one way to get rid of them. Yes. They also do a very diluted form of acid you can use. They'll put it on the tip of what are the things you stick in your mouth after you get done eating? A toothpick. You can sit on the end of a toothpick and put it on it. And once you cover the wart with it, you put duct tape over top of it, and it's supposed to be able to like eat away at the wart. That's another way to do it. And then whatever this essential oil is, I can't think of what it is off the top of my head.
Valerian?
No, it's a really common.
Oh, because I was gonna say Valerian smells like ass.
It's a really common thing that people have throughout their house. I just can't think of what it is off the top of my head anymore.
Oregano oil?
Yes, that one, oregano oil. That's what it was, 100%. And it stinks. It smells so bad. It's not that bad when you're using it for like oregano, like when you're eating or like cooking or whatever.
But the oil is.
But oregano oil, when you put that across some kids like bottom of their feet, or like when you put it on their side or what, oh my god, it smells so bad. It's so pungent, like it literally fills up the entire room. It's nuts.
Yeah. Similar to Christianity is like how Christianity and Catholicism and Roman Catholicism are all like branches of the same tree.
Yep.
There's different things with paganism. Like there's Dianic paganism, there's Wiccan, things like that.
See,
Those are
I've
just some
heard of that
examples.
one. I don't remember who I knew. Somebody I
Wiccan?
knew believed in that. Yeah.
Yeah, like Dianic paganism, for example, is only women. Because they
somebody
follow.
I knew believed in Wiccan. I can't remember who it was.
I might have mentioned it to you before, but
I don't think it was you. It
um,
was somebody. I don't remember.
yeah. What was the question that your friend had for us?
I don't know. She hasn't sent it to me yet. I think she sent it to me right now, but she hadn't sent it yet.
Okay.
But yeah, y'all's rule of three also is kind of familiar with the fact of like we believe in like the Holy Trinity. So like the Holy Trinity is three. I thought that was interesting.
Does Christianity believe in demons?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so we believe in like bad spirits, like
right. Well, see, we
I
believe
don't
in
know if
like bad, like in spirits, and it's like we have like each person has a spirit, and then we also believe in if the devil exists, then demons, and like if if God and angels exist and the devil exists, then demons also exist, and the Bible talks about demons as well.
Yeah.
And different like spirits and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is mostly just like the earth. Take care of it. Don't be a dick to it. You know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's like the main belief. That is the belief I'd want to pass on is like, hey, this
So
is the earth. You're gonna respect it.
this is not me trying to be. This is gonna. I don't want this to sound like. What's the word I'm looking for?
Insensitive.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But
Okay,
y'all
go
are
ahead.
basically the hippies of religion, right?
Pretty much.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the hippies. It's like, all right, preserve the earth. Yeah, nah. All that shit. Yeah. Pretty much. But there's different types of. We call ourselves witches.
Oh, I like this question because it's. I really like this question.
Okay, what is it?
So
Very curious.
honestly, it won't really matter to what you've said because with what you've said, it's not a problem in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it only really applies to what, I guess to Christianity. Yeah, D&D druids. That sounds about right.
Yeah,
that's
we
pretty dead
can't
on.
shapeshift.
I like that. That's pretty good. From what I've heard, anyways.
Like a lot of pagans are pacifists. I am not, but that's just me.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's because I have a lot of anger. But
I really appreciate all the information that you get because like this has been very informative and I'm enjoying it.
oh yeah, happy to help.
So her question was, so my question is, someone wants to have sex before marriage, and they go through with it, but in the middle of doing it, they say no or to stop. Would that be frowned upon still, I guess, I should say?
So in paganism, if that does happen, if you are having sex with somebody, and middle of sex, they say, no, stop, I don't want this. Immediately, without hesitation, whoever is being told no, stop, has to stop. Like, that is it. That is end of story, end of discussion. You must stop. If you do not, there are many spiritual consequences that will be coming at you that I would not even, I would not invoke that wrath, personally.
Yeah.
Of that kind of spiritual backlash that is about to backhand you. No. That is... No. Paganism is very much consent. And the second somebody withdraws that consent, game over, you need to leave.
Yeah, the big thing for Christianity is like, that's part of right and wrong. Is like rape, doing any type of like things without people's consent, like that. All of that falls in like obviously is like wrong. You're not supposed to do that. Like that's awful. So for one, let's start there. Like that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Rape is bad no matter what religion you look at.
For the most, yeah, I can't really think of very many religions where that's. Really any religion.
But between the both of us, we both decide rape is bad.
Yeah, so there's that. So to start off with, there's your basis. But the thing is so Christianity wise, we've already went over the fact that sex before marriage is a sin. It's not something good. It's not something you want to do. So your question was if they go through with it, but in the middle they want to stop. They're not okay with it anymore. So the idea is that if that's the case, you've fell under that guilt or that area of like, oh, I don't want to do this. I've realized I shouldn't have done this in the first place. I'm not there. And I feel like some Christians have been in this position of and not even just in premarital sex, but drinking, of cheating, of lying, whatever. They get halfway through doing something and they realize, I probably shouldn't have done this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is bad. I shouldn't have done this in the first place. And they see the error in their way and they're like, okay, I shouldn't have done this. And then they stop. That's not frowned upon. That's a good thing because, again, you've remembered, I shouldn't have done this. Like, that guilt hits in, that conscience, that moral right or wrong hits in. They're like, okay, probably shouldn't have done this in the first place. And they back out of that. And I think it's really cool. It's not frowned upon that to stop in the middle. That's actually a good thing because like your conscience is remembering like what's right and wrong. As far as the whole part of, do you think it's frowned upon if they stop from the other end? Like again, what like the basis is it's all about consent. If somebody says no, they say no. Like no, don't do that. You know.
No is no.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't matter. I'm gonna jump in. Sorry. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, Catholic, pagan, Wiccan. I do strongly believe Panther and I are gonna agree wholeheartedly on this. Is no.
Yeah. Now I'm not gonna say that once you've done it. So the whole idea is like this also opens the question of like what do you consider sex? Like do you consider like getting all the way through the act?
Oh,
do you
yeah,
consider starting? Do you consider oral? Like what is it that you consider to be sex? Is the next question that comes into play based off of that question. And the big thing is I can only tell you based off of what the Bible says, and technically the Bible says that oral technically is sex, because it's why they call it oral sex. Like that's literally in the name. Is what it says Bible wise. But without that, where you just want to look at it from just normal intercourse or whatever, as soon as you the Bible says actually you can, if you look at a woman with lustful eyes, it's the same difference as you going out and having sex with someone. Basically, somewhere in the Bible it talks about almost that exact thing. So we aren't like supposed to look at a woman with lustful intentions. It's all about those intentions that that Luna was talking about just a minute ago. Like the Bible talks about intentions as well. Like you shouldn't have the intention to go out and do stuff with somebody. So like that's kind of a thing there as well. So like if you go out and you start the act, then you kind of already done it. Like you're already in that. Like you've kind of you've already done messed up. But then again, what's so cool about Christianity is it's already been covered for you. Like it's not like, yeah, you messed up, you skinned your knee, you messed up, you got slapped on the wrist, and yeah, you're gonna deal with the consequences of your actions. But what's so cool is we don't have to deal with the cost of what that means. Doesn't mean that you're going to go to hell because you had sex with somebody. Doesn't mean that you're going to go to hell because you got halfway through and you realized, oh, I probably shouldn't have done this in the first place, and you back out. Doesn't mean that you're going to go to hell because you said, oh man, that dude's hot. Like, I would take every bit of him. Like just because you like have those thoughts or whatever doesn't mean that you're going to go to hell for it. But it does mean that probably aren't thinking where you probably need to be thinking in the first place, based off of what Christians believe anyways. Demonic, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't answer your question or you want to know more, like something more specific, you're more than welcome to ask. And in my stream and in these talks that we have on Tuesday nights, sensitive questions, I don't really care. You're more than welcome to ask anything you want to ask about how I believe about it, how anybody that hops on my stream that wants to talk in here. Because you're only going to be able to learn and be able to figure out what you believe once you've heard your options, once you get to choose, like once you've heard how other people believe about it, and what your options are there. So like, ask questions because you're never gonna be able to answer those questions if you don't first ask questions. So it's great that you're asking questions like that. At least in my opinion. So.
No, I agree. Really quick, one thing I'm gonna say is similar to what you said about bad apples in the bunch. Like, I don't want to pretend that doesn't exist in paganism because it does. I'm not going to sit here and say yes, sure. we are earth loving, but there's also a lot of bad in it too, and I think that needs to be addressed. Like, if people are going to address like, hey, there's bad in Christianity and Catholicism, it's like, okay, but there's bad in paganism too. Like, that exists. Something that some pagans practice, I do not. Most pagans do not practice this, and I'm going to say that very clearly. Most pagans do not. In some remote covens, they do, but they practice bloodletting, which is animal sacrifice.
I knew that. I actually somehow already knew that when I remember that.
Yeah.
But they also didn't they also burn their kids like at one point in history.
They might have, but I wouldn't be able to talk about that because I don't know too much about that.
Okay.
But for
I
example,
think that was part of like old history.
yeah. Some pagans believe in a goddess called the Morrigan. She is also known as the Great Queen. She is mainly associated with war and fate, death and victory. She's often portrayed in blood-stained clothes. So a lot of their beliefs involve blood. And, they're not going to go out and kill somebody to honor their goddess. They're not going to go out and sacrifice an animal to honor their goddess. But what they do strongly believe in is as often as they can, they will donate blood, which is great. Because they're like, well, I'm honoring my goddess by doing a blood sacrifice. It is my own. I'm giving my life essence, and I'm helping somebody. And that's how they honor their goddess. That's how they practice paganism, because like, well, I give my blood and honoring my goddess by doing so. But a lot of pagans strongly do not condone, encourage, or believe in bloodletting practices such as animal sacrifice, human sacrifice, anything like that. Blood is a powerful tool. Yeah, we just don't use it very much. Usually if they are going to use blood, it's their own, and it's usually menstrual blood. But most of the time, if they're like, I'm going to make a sacrifice or I need blood, it's like, I'm going to donate it. Because again, it doesn't harm anybody. It's giving back to the earth.
I don't know why, but see, like I could go sit in a OR, watch a surgery where they chop some dude's toe off, because I've done that. I can sit and see blood in that aspect all day long. But when we talk about blood in this sense, it really makes me kind of squeamish. I don't know why, but it makes me very nervous, and I don't know what it is. Like, it's not like it doesn't make me like feel like I'm gonna pass out. Like, none of that type of stuff. But it makes me very nervous. Like, it's very off-putting to me, and I don't know why. It's just something about the whole like idea of sacrifice and like sacrificing blood in this type of way.
It can be something that's very uncomfortable, especially when you consider the fact that
uncomfortable.
It's also got to remember that it's also it's to honor the goddess of death. Like, it's not something that's light. Like, it's meant to make people uncomfortable.
It's very
it's not what I do, so
I mean, at the end of the day, Christianity has also had their fair share of bloodshed and fair share of like sacrifices.
I think a lot of religions have.
Yeah, because I mean, all the way up until like through the Old Testament and stuff, you see they sacrificed sheep and rams, and that blood was their sacrifice. And then, and it's crazy. It's like, well, the reason we don't have to do that now is because when Jesus came and gave his sacrifice, like sacrificed himself, he was the ultimate blood debt, blood sacrifice. Like, he shed his blood so that way we don't ever have to do that anymore. So that's why you don't see like people going out like sacrificing lambs anymore, like kids, like nothing, like that's not a thing anymore. Is because of Jesus doing that. Like, so like it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Have you two ever helped someone believe in what you believe?
Have I ever converted somebody to paganism? I don't believe.
I think that is the question in essence. Is like,
have I ever converted somebody? No. I've talked to them about it, and I've informed them, and then they, either be like, "Oh, okay, cool," or they're like, "Oh, tell me more. I want to know more," and then I'll tell them more, and then they go on and they make a decision. But no, I've never like explicitly converted somebody. I think it's you make your own choice.
I love this question. I really love this question, and it's a question a lot of Christians wouldn't agree with my answer. I know a lot of people would, but have you ever? So really, for a Christian, this question becomes: have you ever saved someone? Have you ever made or gotten someone saved? And the question is no, because I can talk with you all day long about my religion. I can ask you questions that make you question things. I can ask you questions that make you want to know more. But at the end of the day, I'm not in the saving business. I'm not. It's not my job to save people.
Nope.
It's God's job. Like, that's what God does. God saves. Jesus saves. So Jesus is who actually
Just
does
here
the
to talk
saving
about it.
in Christianity. I'm just here to talk about what I believe in and to tell people about the good news. To tell people that they don't have to worry about anxiety, depression. They don't have to worry about their sin. They don't have to worry about going to hell. They don't have to worry about all those things because it's already been paid in full. It's already been taken away. Jesus has already done that, and like that's what I get to talk about. And what's so cool is like I don't like. Yes, I've got to help people, like talk to people about God and help to show them who He is and to show them who Jesus is, and like kind of help give them proof and like show them the proof. And like answer questions, but nowhere have I ever actually saved someone or actually converted someone, because that's not my job. That's not what Christians are called to do. We're just called to go tell all nations, and be there. Jesus is the one that saves. So, and again, I don't have to defend my faith either. I was never called to do that, because Jesus doesn't need me to defend him. God doesn't need me to defend him. So. There's that. I hope that answers it.
Yeah. My answer was kind of sort of about the same, but not
Yeah.
fully. But a roundabout. Yeah, it's just... I feel like whenever you have topics of religion and discussion, you always need to go into it. If you're going to talk about religion, first of all, you have to be respectful. You can't go in with the intention of converting somebody. You can't go with the intention of...
Right.
I'm right, you're wrong. It has to be like, let's discuss, let's talk. This is what I believe in, that's what you believe in. All right, cool. I don't hate you.
Well, that's how, not even just religion. That's how you have to look
about
at
everything.
talking to anyone about any type of belief, any type of opinion. Is that you have to be able to look at it with an open slate, like be able to open mind.
Yeah. I feel like people definitely get more defensive about religion.
True. Well, politics is the same way. You see the same rise in response out of people from politics as well. It's all about, well, what people believe in. And the problem is the reason you see that is because politics fall a lot on what people believe religion was. And what people believe, like what they're like, because at the end of the day, what does religion do for the human? Besides answer what happens at the end of life, what else does religion do for people?
It comforts people, at least to me. That's what.
Okay, it comforts people. That's another answer. So what else does it do? What does it set for us?
Sets a boundary, or not the boundary, but like the. What's the word? Like the not the rule to be a good person, but
Okay,
like
rule.
the.
I'll take that's a good one. That's what I was
Like-
looking for. So it sets
like
our
outline.
moral.
I'm just gonna brush my
right
teeth
or-
real quick, so if
Yeah,
I
you're
stop
good.
talking, that's fine.
So it sets our moral right and wrong, is what it does. So what's really cool about that is that the reason that you see people get so stuck up in politics, so caught up and so angry in politics, just like you see religion, is because a lot of politics are based off of people's moral beliefs, are based off of their moral right and wrong that comes from their religion. So politics a lot of times in that situation comes from people's religions. So that's why you see those go hand in hand a lot. A lot of politic options and a lot of opinions when it comes to politics are the exact same way, because you see it happen hand in hand with what somebody believes is right and wrong based off their religion. So, so you said you were called to talk about this stuff, right? Would you still do this if you weren't called to do it? So that question's kind of hard to answer, because when I say I'm called to do this, the Bible says that's my job. That's what every Christian's job is to go out and spread the word. Like it literally says, like, it's called the Great Commission. That's what's in the Bible. It's called the Great Commission. You also have Joe. Welcome in, bro. How you been? My boy Horizon here in the chat. Let's go. Appreciate you hopping in, bro. I'll come back and finish talking about that in just a second. I'm going to read what Flutter said, and then I will finish answering your question. I had multiple religion classes, Old Testament and comparative mythology. I got a lot out of those classes because the chaplain was the teacher, and he brought the classes to life. How do New Testament followers feel about God's Old Testament name? He's called...
I have an answer for this one.
So...
On Kevin's behalf.
Gotcha. Okay. So... we believe that everything in the Old Testament is true, just like everything in the New Testament is true. God's called by a lot of names throughout the Bible. He's called by the Great Physician. Redeemer, Alpha, Omega, Yahweh. He's there's so he's got so many names, it's insane. He's called by so many different things throughout the Bible. So I don't have any problem with any of that, as long as it comes out of the Bible. And yet again, a lot of the things that happen in the New Testament also will go back and kind of set up things that happen in the Old Testament. Specifically Yahweh, I have no problems with Yahweh at all. Actually, it's another name of Him. It's just like Alpha, Omega, beginning, end. Just like you've got Jesus. I mean, there's some. I mean, the Holy Spirit, God, can all three of those. Jesus, Holy Spirit, and God are all really just a name for the same thing. That's the Holy Trinity. So there's all of that different things that all fall into that same category, and so there shouldn't be any problem with those, because it says, if it talks about in the Bible, like I said, it's true. There's nothing that should be a problem. So, but to go back to what Demonic was asking, like whether I would still do this or not, if I was
sorry, real quick to also
go ahead.
From Kevin's perspective, this is not mine. This is Kevin.
Yeah,
Kevin is Roman Catholic. He believes in New Testament and not Old Testament, whereas like the New Testament kind of replaces the Old Testament, which is what a lot of Roman Catholicism beliefs are. Okay, continue.
So, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or not. So, how can you believe the New Testament and not believe the Old Testament? Because the Old Testament has a lot about creation, has a lot about the beginning of like Earth and our universe, and all of that stuff is all in the Old Testament. And a lot of the stories that lead up to like between creation and when Jesus is born is in the Old Testament. Like, it's literally history of like talking about what happened in between. So like like, how can you not believe about those things?
So they do believe, from what I don't know if this is what I think, based on conversations we've had and beliefs and blah blah. But they believe in the Old Testament in the sense of the creation and the stories and all of that. But the rules that are laid out in the Old Testament are different from the New Testament, if I am not mistaken.
Nothing contradicts. Some things have changed in the New Testament based off of Jesus being born and like the stuff there. So like example, like one of the things we talked about just a minute ago was like animal sacrifice, talking about how like they would sacrifice lambs and sheep, like they would sacrifice their blood for like as their sacrifice to be saved. So Old Testament, that was something they had to do, like something they always had to do, like every single time.
And in the New Testament, they don't have to.
Right, because Jesus took that place. So that's why we don't do it now.
That's kind of what that belief is. It's like the rules of the New Testament. Obviously, he believes in God created the earth, God created humans.
Right.
He believes in all that, but I believe, I am guessing here, that's not 100%, but what I am under the assumption of is that he mostly follows the New Testament.
Right. Most of the okay, I can see that. That's kind of on the same lines. Because it's kind of like it's chronologically makes more sense, or makes the most sense, because it's like in line of like what is said to be. So I see what you're saying. Let me fix this dead center.
Okay, back to what you were answering about.
I had multiple. Let's see. Where was I going next with that?
You were going back to Demonic Wolf's question of, would you still do this if you weren't called to do it?
Oh, yeah,
and your response was, you were saying that it's a hard question to answer because in the Bible it tells you to.
Yeah. It really is. That's a hard question to answer, because if I wasn't called to do it, then I wouldn't have a reason to go out and talk about things. But through the entire Bible, it talks about going out and talking. It's not just in the Great Commission that I'm called to go out and set forth and talk about Jesus, talk about God throughout all nations. Throughout the Bible, in every single like in a lot of stories that you read, and a lot of stories we talked about last week, is that you see a story where Jesus tells somebody to go out and do what he's told them to do, like go out and pray, like tell people about what he's done for them. You see that as a reoccurring theme throughout the entire Bible. So it's like you almost wouldn't have half of what you see in the Bible if you didn't have God telling somebody to go tell about what He's done for them, and it's really that's what we're called to do. So, honestly, I don't think I'd believe the same way if I wasn't called to go do that. I'm called to do a lot of things. Like it's one of those things like just like I've felt for the past couple of months that I've been called to come and talk to you guys about this exact thing, like to talk about the Bible, talk about God, talk about Jesus, all of that good stuff. So that's kind of my thing there is like I probably wouldn't believe if it wasn't for that. And or on top of that is like also even if it wasn't there, I feel like I'd probably still end up talking about it just because all the times that it talks about those different themes in the Bible, just because of what He's done for me is like something I don't feel like I could hide. I don't feel like I could just not tell people about. Like I want other people to experience what what I've experienced, like what He's done for me, 100%. So like there's so many things that's been done for me through Him my entire life that I don't know how I couldn't go through life not talking about Him. So hopefully that's a decent answer to that. Some of these questions I don't know if I don't feel like I always give a good answer to. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm always good at that, but how do you feel about the different versions of the Bible, like the King James version? So this is a interesting topic in my opinion, because you'll see a lot of I wish I could get this word out, or differentiation between different people as to what they believe about this, or more perspectives. Yeah, I agree with that. So the King James version, 100% without a doubt, is the closest thing we have to exact words of what was written down. So you got to think when the Bible was first created, it was created in Hebrew. I'm pretty sure. So translation from Hebrew to English, the closest thing we have. Plus, you got to think that just like Old English. So ye thou have like you have all these like old like these old words that we don't use anymore. So like I don't think I've ever walked down the street and somebody's stolen something from me, like, thou hast give me that back. Like I'm not ever gonna say that. Like that's not something we use anymore. But back in that time period, you'd see thou, you'd say hast, and like stuff like that. Like those are words that you'd see back then. So in the translations from Hebrew to English, the very closest, and the difference is not very much. Like it's very, very, very small differences. And honestly, it's not, from what I understand, it's the exact same, because I've seen the difference like with what Hebrew it means in Hebrew to English, and it's the exact same things. So King James Version is the translation from Hebrew to English. That like the King James Version, which is I think what I've got right here. I think this one's King James Version. Is the exact same thing as what it says in Hebrew. Difference. ASV, which I'll use it for once in a while, the American Standard Version, as well as a couple different other versions of the Bible. You'll see the translation is different, and the reason why is because they try and quote unquote dumb it down, or they try to make it easier for us to understand now. So the American Standard Version changes a couple words so that it makes more sense in like today's language of like rolling like the language out. So instead of like hearing like, thou hast and like stuff like that, you'll see more of the words that we use today in like our normal vernacular. So that what you see differently in different versions of the Bible is different ways that they are changing the word, like those words to explain like it in like common language. Like just like medical terminology, you'll see medical terminology be used all throughout the entire world, especially in like North America, like when we're talking about like otorhinolaryngologist, like stuff like that. A lot of people wouldn't understand what that means unless they've taken medical classes and they know the medical terminology. Just like I'm gonna try to think of an easy one. A gastrologist. Okay, so gaster is stomach and ologist means the study or ology. So gastrology, let's use that. Ology means the study of. So gaster is stomach, and ology is the study of. So it's the study of the stomach is what gastrology means. So instead of saying gastrology, we say, oh, well, that's the study of the study of the stomach. So the same difference in the Bible is like when you look at these different versions of the Bible, King James version, ASV, all these different versions, or all the different versions other than the King James version, you see a little bit slight differences in how they put it into layman's terms, is what that's called. So the way that I specifically look at it, most of the Christians that I know, is they take the King James version, they read the King James version, and then they'll compare it to other versions of the Bible to be able to like break it down into like easier terms to understand, like layman's terms. But it's all, we base it all off of that King James version, which is the true translation of the Bible. So that's my take on different versions of the Bible. But it's really just that difference of how things are translated to be able to be understood in today's language, and compared to like the Old English or whatever that it was originally translated into, which is what the King James version is. That's why you see King James version is closest to like the writing in like Romeo and Juliet and like all of these old stories that you're like taught to read throughout school and stuff, that we're like, why do they talk like so funny? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's what the King James version is a lot like that because of it. But really, Flutter, I hope that's what you were asking, because that's really what the difference is between them, and I don't have a problem with them. My only problem that falls into place with different versions of the Bible is that when you start only looking at certain versions instead of basing it off of the King James version. So there are different places in the Bible, depending on the different version that you read, that have been translated in the past 100 years, that have been added, all these new translations and stuff, that a word will be changed, or two words will be changed, and the word's meaning in itself will change an entire verse. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I've seen it where one word will change an entire meaning of what something means. So if you don't base it off of what the original translation is, then it's like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. Why does it say this? So you have to really kind of base it off of that King James version, like the main translation. The others are really just a helpful tool in understanding the Bible easier. Is really what they're more tools than they are like actually exactly what it is. If that makes sense, at least how I look at it.
Just gonna talk about some pagan stuff quickly.
Okay.
I know earlier that Yui had mentioned children. So I went towards Panther. I love it. Oh, no worries, Flutterby. You're good. Sorry, most of the questions are more towards Panther. I've gotten more base knowledge on Christianity and can ask more critical questions from that. It is all good. No worries. You can ask Panther or myself anything you want to know. I'm pretty chill about everything. Whatever you want to ask. If you want to ask Panther questions about Christianity, go for it. If you're curious about paganism, I'm here to answer. But I'm not going to be offended. So, no worries.
That's literally the whole point of my stream, like these streams. And it's the whole point I've had you in here. It's the whole reason I've had Easy in here. It's the whole reason I've had different people from other religions and not been like, oh, well, I don't want somebody that doesn't believe the same thing as me being in here. It's the whole point of me having other people in here so that you can ask them questions and learn about their religions as well. So that you guys know what they believe and can kind of ask questions. And so not only that, so I can also ask questions and be like, why is it that you believe that? Like, that's interesting. I'd like to talk more about that. So,
yeah. Yeah. And like also like I think I come with a interesting perspective in the aspect that I am in a relationship where my partner does not have the same religious beliefs as me. And that's an interesting viewpoint. And
not only that, but the contradicting religious beliefs.
And how we're both willing to just kind of mesh it together in a way that works for us. And And I mean, I have friends that don't believe in the same thing, aka Panther. And, you know, we could just sit here and talk and be like, this is my belief. And, oh, this is my belief. This is how it's similar. This is how it's different. But, you know, it's never an angry thing. It's just interesting perspectives from both sides to learn more. So, I know previously you had mentioned abortion, and I hadn't had the chance to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
So, interestingly enough, in pagan beliefs, it does not specifically mention anything about abortion. It is up to the individual. So, while it's never anything specifically said, a lot of pagans are okay with abortion because we believe in freedom of choice, but we also believe in responsibility. Like individual responsibility. So, some are okay with it, some are not. My personal beliefs don't exactly reflect pagan beliefs. I guess they do slightly in the sense that I believe in individual responsibility. So, if you have sex and you are not using protection and you get pregnant, I do not believe that abortion should be used as a form of birth control. At the same time, you are a person, you are free to make your own decision. That is just my personal belief. And interestingly enough, Kevin coming from Catholicism and me coming from paganism, we have had the talks about, okay, what happens if I get pregnant? Because that's something that we had to talk about. Even though we take precautions, it doesn't matter what you use, pill, condoms, anything, nothing is 100% unless you do abstinence, which neither of us wanted. But I wanted to touch on that because I know Panther had already talked about abortion, and I didn't want to have him be like the only one that had talked about a taboo topic. I wanted to kind of weigh in and put my beliefs with yours side by side. But I believe in personal responsibility, but I also believe in you're a person, you can make your own decisions. It's not up to me to judge you. It's you. You have to live with yourself, not me. Yeah, I don't put myself in a position to judge.
Yeah. And that's a hard topic. It really is, and it's
It
one
is.
that's definitely relevant to today's society and today's politics, especially with everything that's going on with that specific topic in today's world. Um, and I feel like used to it wasn't as big of a topic, mainly because there wasn't as many options towards it. It wasn't as easily accessible. Whereas like now it's like it's legal and it's easily accessible. Um, so it's like it's become a much larger topic on the grand scale of things, especially now. And it's just one of those things that's like I don't know. And a lot of people and see my only problem, and what's so hard about me to being able to talk about these things on Twitch, talk about these things in my stream, is Twitch is very liberal in the way that they run their or run Twitch, and the way that they um, run their rules, and the way that they um, like what you're allowed to talk about. So I can sit here and talk about Christianity all day long, but technically, if we're really looking at it, with what Twitch says and with what people that most of the people that run Twitch and the way that they do it is our talk earlier about being bi, gay, transgender, like LGBTQ, like all that stuff. Our talk about that earlier technically would be against Twitch TOS because I don't agree with it, and due to like Twitch's TOS, they like that's seen as me not being what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost me seeming homophobic, and that's and see the problem is I'm not homophobic. I just don't agree. And the same exact topic with abortion is like I don't agree with it being okay, and it's something I'm not really supposed to talk about on stream because it's politic related. And I don't really know how to feel about that, like not being able to talk about your opinions on things. It's the same thing with Twitter. Twitter is the worst for that. Twitter is so liberal. Like I've got friends that are really hardcore Republicans, and I don't really care. Like I don't care what just like I don't care like what people's religions are. Like if you want to believe what you want to believe, that's all you. Just same thing with politics though. Is like you should be able to, like our First Amendment right is freedom of speech. You should be able to talk about what you believe, like what your like political views are, without having to feel like you're being silenced for talking about it. And I feel like that should be across the board. Like even if I don't agree with what you're saying, you should have full rights to be able to talk about it whenever you want to. And I've seen firsthand, I guess secondhand really, from people I know that have gotten blocked on Twitter, or have literally gotten banned on Twitter, or have gotten blocked on Twitter, or have gotten shadow banned on Twitter because they talk about their political views like Republican was. And it's because it's a liberal site that's like you're not allowed to do that, and I just don't think that's I don't agree with that. I don't think that's cool. That you're not allowed to talk about what you're like. I get that it's technically a private site, but freedom of speech, I feel like should rule over that. Like that don't make a difference. And the same thing with Twitch. I feel like I should be able to talk about these topics, talk about what my faith is and what my beliefs are, without feeling worried that my stream's going to get banned because of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, but I guess I can't ask this on Twitch because it involves abortion, so I don't think I can ask it.
You can ask it. I don't really like if that's.
Oh, okay.
If I get my here's, and this is really a hot take. If I get banned, if this is what would ban my stream, then so be it. If me talking about my faith and my religion and my views, my opinions based off of my religion, if that's what gets me banned, then so be it. Because that's honestly, that's in my opinion, that goes against what like the whole point of us. Like if we go back in history, we left England because we wanted to have our own religion, like be able to have our own religious beliefs and opinions. Yeah. At the end of the day, if I'm not allowed to do that, what was the point? Like, yeah.
So
go ahead.
Do you believe religion belongs in politics, or do you believe that church and state should be separate?
Did you hear what I said while you were brushing your teeth? I don't know if you were like actively listening during that or not. But...
I had a toothbrush in my mouth, so I don't think so.
No big deal. So I kind of touched on this a little bit. So church and state, like separation. My big thing with that is political views and everything that you like, your opinions based on so in essence, political views are our takes of what is right and wrong. It's like us voting on what we think should be right and should be wrong, right? In an extent. So in that case, what we get, the answer that I asked you earlier, like what do we get from religion, is we get our basis, like our moral basis. We get our rights and wrongs from religion. So if we really look at it, the reason that people get so mad about politics, just like they get so mad about religion, is because it's all based off of your right and wrong, which is what comes from your religion. Religion sets up your moral compass, and politics rely on your moral compass to be able to make those decisions. So honestly, they will always be connected based off of your faith, based off of what you believe is right and wrong. So that's my take on it, is like as to why that will always be connected. And I don't think it will ever be able to be separated is because of that.
Interesting.
So, because if it was up to me, at the end of the day, my beliefs of what right and wrong is come straight from the Bible, and I feel like that's every man should live behind that, you know. And actually, I would really like you know, if you're ever looking for something to read, I don't know if you do a lot of reading or not. Mere Christianity, this book, actually, sorry, my webcam's over here. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Okay, if you want a good read, and everybody's like, well, it's a Christianity book. Hear me out, though. The guy that wrote it was originally an atheist. And if you guys are like, oh, C.S. Lewis, that sounds really familiar. He's the guy that created Narnia. Okay, so man's a great author. He's wrote some great books. But what's crazy is he was originally an atheist, and he set out to disprove Christianity. And he did that in a different he tried to do that in a different book, but this, like Mere Christianity specifically, was done in World War II. World War One, he was a fighter pilot and an atheist, and he comes in like he finally becomes like a Christian, and he had only been a Christian for just a little while, and he gets asked to do a couple radio talks, like on air radio talks. And you got to think that during that time period, you're talking about World War II, where every time you turn on the radio, you're hearing bad news about a war between the entire world. Okay, so that like people like only people were only hearing dread at the time. So he comes in, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna talk about something that's kind of different, something kind of crazy. So he comes in, and the entire like all four of these talks, which have been pushed together to make Mere Christianity, is he literally breaks down Christianity to its very basics. Like he literally talks about like he starts the book off and he builds up from literally ground up. He starts with literally your base instincts in life and how where your moral like where your morals come from. He has this idea that there's something called like the natural law. And when I say natural law, I'm not talking about gravitation. I'm not talking about physics, like that type of stuff. He's talking about like a moral like law of what is right and wrong, like what is okay and what's not okay. And he begs the theory that everyone lives under the same moral law, that of like right and wrong. Like we all have the same conscience, and like guilt of like when we do stuff. And he kind of talks about that, and he kind of goes off throughout the entire book of Mere Christianity. I haven't actually finished it yet, but the idea is that he talks about like proving through our nature, through our instincts, through the way that we think, the way that people like act in the world, is like how he kind of sets up like the basis of like what Christianity actually is. But C.S. Lewis is a fantastic author. I love him as an author because he's so like when he explains things, he explains them in such a way that they so vividly get painted in front of you, if that makes any sense. So let me ask this, Luna, do you have a internal monologue?
Not always.
So like when you think stuff, like do you hear it, like you don't hear it in your head?
I don't. I imagine the words more than I hear it.
Interesting. So you don't have like a voice, like when you read something, you don't have a voice like that you hear like reading it out loud in your head.
No, that's interesting actually.
Interesting.
When I read, I can see what I'm reading. I can read in my head.
So does it play? Does it play like a movie?
It plays like a movie.
Okay.
Like
okay. So there's an internal monologue, and then there's I can't think of what that's called. That's called something else. So this will actually work. So Mere Christianity, the way he explains things are so vivid. Like the movie that plays in my head is so vivid in like his explanations. Like it's just so cool. He just sets it up to where it's like makes it so easy to do that. I didn't know until like a couple of weeks ago that not everybody had an internal monologue. Because like when I read something, I hear it in my head. When I
don't hear it. I
can
see
sit.
It in
so
my head.
do you have to listen to a song to be able to get it, like to be able to hear it? Because like I can like sit here and think, and I can think of songs and like how they go, and like I can hear it in like singing in my head.
I usually have music playing at all times, so there's never really a moment in my life that I don't have music playing.
Interesting.
Like when I sleep, I have music playing, showering, anything, eating, like everything. I usually have music at all points.
That's wild. That's crazy.
And there's different genres of music that I listen to depending on what I'm like. If I'm sleeping,
right? Yeah.
It's usually lo-fi. I'm not gonna play like super energetic music going to sleep. It's lo-fi or like breakfast lo-fi, and then sometime I'll like between breakfast and lunch I'll switch into energetic music.
But yeah, I didn't know till a couple weeks ago that people didn't.
If I have a song stuck in my head, I will sing it or I will hum it. It never stays in my head.
That's crazy. That's so
wild. Yeah.
See, that's been a very interesting thing to me the past couple of weeks because I had no idea. Like I thought that was just normal. Like I thought everybody had that. Like everybody was just able to like read something and like hear it. Like it was just like I can think, like when I think about things, like when I'm like working through things, I'm talking to myself in my head.
I'll talk to myself in my head, but I don't hear it. It's more so like I imagine the words.
That's crazy. That's wild. See, that's
Yeah.
that's just that's so beyond me. That's so crazy.
Or like I'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, I have to get up and I have to make breakfast. And in my head I'll be like, okay, I'm going to get up in 15 minutes. But I don't hear it. It's like mentally stating I have to get up in 15 minutes, but there's no sound. Which is crazy now that I'm saying it out loud. It's definitely interesting.
It was something I had heard the other day, but apparently there's that, and then apparently a lot of people it's like people don't or also don't have being able to like play stuff in their head either. So like you somewhat have a internal monologue enough to be able to like imagine things, like be able to see like stuff like a video, but like some people when they read books, they literally just see the words on the page and think it. There's no movie that plays in their head. There's no nothing. Like, it's straight. They are just, like, reading a book. Like, they are not, like, reading a book and watching it come alive in their head.
Oh, no. Like, I mostly... It's really interesting when Kevin and I will have, like, really long discussions. Because oftentimes I don't have that internal monologue of, okay, like, processing the conversation. Like, when we talk, I'll make noises back at him. Like if we're sitting there talking about something, even if it's not a serious discussion, I'll sit there and I'll make noises back at him, or I'll repeat words that he has said to me, and he knows, okay, she's thinking about it, but she doesn't have that monologue in her head, so she's imagining what to say next, or she's picturing how it's going to play out in her head, and those noises are my cue to him that I'm thinking.
Right.
Because you can tell when someone's thinking. You can tell when someone is talking to themselves in their head.
Right.
Because I don't have that, it just looks like I'm constantly in my own head.
Interesting.
And it takes me longer because I have to visualize, okay, he said this, so I can say this and that will happen, or I can say this and this will happen. And I think if it's just like a lot of imagination, and processing takes a little bit longer. But he's gotten pretty used to it. Like, it's nothing that's ever caught him off guard now. I think he finds it more so interesting that I'll repeat things back to him, or we'll talk in the morning and he'll say something and I will latch onto that and I'll be repeating it at night. And he's like, oh, like, you're still processing from this morning. Like, you're still thinking about that conversation. But again, no internal dialogue, so I have to say it out loud. Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So it's a very interesting thing. Like, that really intrigues me when people talk about that, because it's like it's hard for my brain to wrap around, because like I could sit here and like think about stuff and like see it.
You your own voice in your head, like you physically,
yeah,
like you hear your voice.
So it's weird. So like when I say things in my head, it's like I know what I'm saying. I can feel myself saying it inside of my head. It's not sound, obviously, because it's the same equivalent of, like, I'm not taking in sound in my ears, so it's not that type of sound. But it's like I can hear myself. It's like I have that, I can imagine my voice saying that to myself. Does it make sense? So it's like, so that's what it's like. And the same thing with, like, I'm singing. Like, I can think about something in my head. Like, I can hear a song in my head. I can actually hear, like, in my head, can imagine what that sounds like.
Yeah, like if I have a song stuck in my head, I will always say it out loud, or it's just like this burning itch. Play the song, play the song, play the song.
Oh no, I hear it in my head, 100%. Like, it's like if there's a song stuck in my head, I can hear it playing over and over, like in my head, like of myself like singing it, or I can hear the singer singing it. Like, it's it's kind of annoying. So then I have to play it. I'm like, okay, I'm good now. So.
Yeah, it's more like this itch where it's like you need to play it, you need to listen to it. Occasionally, if it's a very intense urge, I will be able to not hear parts of it, but like feel. But I never really hear in my mind. And I'm realizing that there's other people out there that that don't have that same feeling in their head.
That's kind of wild. So, a lot of people some people have it like you do, though, and I didn't know that. So, interesting.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna have to wrap this up here pretty soon because I have work tomorrow. We
Yeah,
will be
I
back
got class.
next Tuesday doing this exact same thing, talking about the Bible, talking about different religions, talking about faith, believing, Jesus, all that good stuff. You guys get to ask questions. Anybody that wants to hop in, doesn't have the same belief as me or has the same belief as me, any of that good stuff, or just wants to sit and talk, have questions, talk about your beliefs, religion, whatever you guys want to talk about. That's what I'm leaving Tuesday nights as the night that you guys get to do this. Guys get to hop in and we get to really talk about stuff that matters. That's the whole point of me having this night, is to be able to get in here and really get to the basis of things, really get to talk about stuff and really ask questions about stuff that really actually matter compared to the everyday life and video games and all of that good stuff. But that's the goal, is that you guys get to come in here and ask questions and get to find out new information, or get to sit in here and just talk and feel encouraged, hopefully. So that's the whole idea. Yeah, of course, Flutter.
This was
You're
a
more than
lot of
welcome.
fun.
I'll be back. We'll be doing this again, like I said, Tuesday, next Tuesday night as well. My idea is that every Tuesday night, this is what we'll be doing. And the idea is I've called it the Panther Kingdom Bible Study. It's not always a Bible study. I've done this twice now, and it's been a very big religious talk about different religions, really. Comparing religions, asking questions about my religion, about other people's religions. That's really what it's been. It's just really a Q&A for religion, and different people's beliefs, and that's fine. I'm cool with it being that. I'm cool with it getting to do that, as long as I get to, as well, also talk about what I believe. And maybe one day I'll get to sit and talk and give a Bible study, actually, or give some type of something. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's what it is as of right now, and we'll continue to see where it leads, where God takes it. So, but I've felt like I've been led to do this for months now, and I ran from it, and finally was like, you know what? I'm gonna do what I've been called to do, what I've been asked to do, and here we are. And it's turned out to be more than I could have ever imagined. So, but I appreciate everybody that's hopped in tonight. Flutter, I appreciate you hopping in the stream and being here. Luna, I appreciate you hopping in and kind of letting me ask you questions and lending me your ear for all of it.
Yeah, it was fun.
But yeah, we'll definitely be back here doing this again next Tuesday night. If anybody wants to hop in, wants to hang out, talk it up, whatever you guys want to do, that's what my chat's open to, you guys to talk and hang out and do whatever. So I appreciate you guys hopping in. We'll see if we can find somebody to raid those. I do know that people should be a decent couple of guys on, as well as if you guys haven't. You got a what?
I gotta go pass out. It's like 3:13 in the morning. I got class.
That's how it is for me. But if you guys haven't already, if you guys don't mind dropping a follow on my Twitter, my YouTube, TikTok always has something funny on it. And then the last one should be my Insta. If you guys haven't already followed me on those, I would definitely appreciate you guys going and dropping the follow and checking the content out. I would really appreciate it. I'm going to have to, you know what? I have said for so long that I'm going to make a thing called Only Snipes. And it's literally just going to be like an OnlyFans account of me, of nothing but sniper clips. Of me just absolutely waxing kids. 100%.
It's just very the fans.
It's going to be nothing but that. This is a legit Bible study, or I'm out too late. King, I appreciate you hopping in. So I was actually just explaining that we were actually right on the tail end of it. I will be doing this every Tuesday night, hopping in here. Basically what it is, though, I started this last week. And last week I started out by talking about the trip I went on to Atlanta, to a thing called Passion. And basically it's just a big Christian conference. Had like 55,000 people there. It was awesome. And basically the whole idea was that we got to worship with a couple of really big Christian artists. King, you were at Passion. Let's go, bro. Let's go. But yeah, I was at Passion, so last week we started by talking about that and talking about some of the stuff I got to hear there, and then it turned into, I had a buddy that's Catholic, that was in the Discord and was talking to us, and when I got to ask him about his beliefs, he asked me about my beliefs, asked me different questions, as well as basically I've opened up the chat to ask whatever questions they want to ask about my religion, about Easy's religion when he was in here, about all of that. And we just kind of did that. It went from me having like 2 viewers to like I ended up with like 9 for most of the time that I was in here last week. And it was like 4 hours long. Tonight, I've hopped in here and was hanging out. Easy hopped in for a little while, was asking questions. And then Luna hopped in, and Luna is actually pagan. So I got to learn about her religion and what she believes. And we in chat asked more questions tonight, and we got to talk about that. So it's been a really, really good time. We got to really compare different religions and different views and stuff, and talk about all of that. But like I said, I will be 100% doing this every single Tuesday night, and I call it the Panther Bible Study, or Panther Kingdom Bible Study, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that we will always be talking about what exactly is the Bible says. A lot of times it's going to be getting to hear other religious views and stuff as well. But I will talk about my beliefs and kind of what I believe about it when people ask questions. It is 3:16 a.m. for me right now, and I'm going to catch up with chat.
3:16 a.m. for me as well.
Yeah, we were comparing.
I'm laying in bed, like in pajamas.
I feel that. We were comparing views of different religions that I've compared to Panther, but he does the Bible study where people talk about religion, whether Christianity or otherwise. Who is my favorite? Favorite worship was probably. Ooh, I liked Crowder this year. He's there every year, but Crowder this year was different because he literally.
I am surprised that there's like a Christian conference, if that's what it's called.
Technically, Passion's a conference. Technically, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's like a. The only time I hear con is like cosplay and like comics books, but like.
So
I don't know, the fact that
basically
like
what this
Christian
was.
Con is wild to me.
Well, it's not even that. So what's crazy is it's more like a. Let me explain it, and you'll understand what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So Passion is this year it was a 2-day conference. No, not really. This year it was a 2-day conference. Normally it's like 3, and it's held in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, Georgia. Every now and then they'll do different places. Like next year it'll be in a couple of different places other than just in Atlanta. But this year there was 55,000 people in the dome. Okay, so we packed out our Mercedes-Benz Dome basically, and what's crazy is like down like where the field would normally be at, it's like a huge stage. And there's people like all around the stage and stuff, and we do worship. So like there's like big Christian contemporary artists that are always there, whether it's Christian, like regular Christian contemporary, the Passion band, which is like literally Passions like has their own band, as well as like Christian rap and like stuff like that. They have all these different like artists that come, and we do worship, and then right after that they normally have a like big speaker. There's like normally 6 or 7 speakers that speak throughout the entirety of Passion. So like this year Tim Tebow was there. Sadie Robertson, if that name sounds familiar, you don't know who it is. She was the daughter off of Duck Dynasty. She was there. And then a lot of like the big name, like actual like Christian, like big name of like what like Christian pastors that most like some people would know. Levi Lusko, Louis Giglio, who was like one of the main ones there. Call her Baby Duck. That's so funny. That's actually pretty fitting. But there's like a bunch of like the big like preachers, pastors, whatever you want to call them, that are there, that they give their message, their sermon, or whatever. And then it's literally 2 or 3 days of nothing but us just hanging out at the dome, literally just worshiping and getting to hear message after message of like nothing but Jesus, and it's great. But like I said, there was literally 55,000 here this year. There was 75,000 the first time I went. It was before they destroyed the Mercedes-Benz Dome, the original one, and then rebuilt it. But it was really kind of it's fantastic. We call it a conference, even though I don't know if you'd really call it a conference, considering it's like not a conference that I would have ever imagined. It's not a con because we aren't like walking around like to different like booths and like doing all that good stuff. Like we are literally there, like just taking it all in. So it's a really cool experience. Yeah, King, we're on Discord. We're in the Bible study talk.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, oh God. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's interesting to me that a bunch of people got together and was like, hey, you want to talk about Jesus? And they're like, yeah. You know who else wants to talk about Jesus? 55,000 other people.
That is the craziest. Like, it's funny that you say that, because
it's wild to me.
when I tell you it's the most humbling experience, like one of the crazy experiences I've ever been to be able to sit in a room and like know that there's 54,999 other individuals that are there. They may not always be there for the exact same reasons, but they're all there worshiping Jesus. Like, it is the craziest thing. And not only that, but to hear them all sing and worship all in the same light is wild. It's absolutely insane. Like, Luna, do you have my stream pulled up right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, in paganism, we don't really sing much in coven meetings. Like, in coven meetings, we don't sing. Coven meetings are different, but...
Okay, so mute yourself, or mute me in Discord so you don't have to hear me twice. Listen to this video and then unmute me. Because I just want you, I wish that I would have videoed this for like an hour, or not an hour, but for like a whole minute or two worth of this song. Or I wish that it was like surround sound so you guys could just hear. Like, we're listening to this video is kind of humbling and like awestruck type stuff, but actually being there is a whole nother situation. So listen to this video.
I know, like, when... Hold on.
Let me know when you're ready, and I'll play it.
Yeah. Okay, you could play it.
So it's only like 10 seconds long. I really wish I'd have had like a minute and a half, 2 minutes worth of it. But like the singer on the stage wasn't even singing. Like, she quit singing during this song, and the entire stadium was singing the words, like singing, just straight up worshiping Jesus. And like, to be able to hear that across the entire, like to just fill the entire stadium, just reverberating with that sound, was just absolutely insane. It's wild. Like, there's nothing like it. There's no other way to describe that feeling. Like, it's insane. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I know in Christianity and Catholicism, like, there's a lot of singing and there's a lot of preaching, and just in pagan, like, how we worship is so different. Like, we don't do a lot of singing. It's just, you don't really sing to the gods and goddesses that much. Mm-hmm. A lot of, like, our worshiping is meditation, or not even strictly talking to the gods and goddesses. It's like, oh, you're gonna invoke the elements, and that's what you're gonna do, and you're not really gonna talk to a specific, because everybody worships a different god or goddess. Like, nobody really worships the same thing unless you're speaking specifically to the maiden mother, or the maiden goddess, and the horned god. But otherwise, it's like, everybody's not gonna say the same thing or believe the same things. It's just wild. Damn, 55,000 people just worshiping God. It's one God. Like, that's kind of interesting.
It's the craziest thing. I there's nothing like it. What's up, King?
Hello.
What's up, bro?
So King, where are you from, if you don't mind me asking?
That's always the first question. I'm originally from, but like,
your mic keeps cutting in and out on you.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out.
Oh, that's trash.
Let me see if I can turn you up a little bit. There we go.
So do I talk now?
Yeah. See if you can talk, and let's see if it cuts out on you. It was like you were like went to talk, and then you got like so quiet we couldn't hear you, and then it was like back to normal.
That's just my actual voice. Yeah, I get shy and then I just stop talking for a bit.
So where are you from, bro?
Originally from Nigeria, but I moved over to Virginia with my mom, military grandparents.
Dude,
But
that's
it's
awesome.
like,
Okay,
bruh,
what I
swear.
find is that a lot of people who are religious in terms of Catholicism or Christianity are from like
The
I don't want to
South,
say the yeah,
because
like the South or
it's
the
because
Midwest.
it's because what we call the Bible Belt. And crazy enough, I live directly dead center in that Bible Belt, and it was what was so hard for me to understand people that don't live there and people that live across the entire United States, and like Christianity in other states like that aren't in the Bible Belt is they don't always like line up the same way with like what the Bible actually says, and they don't always show love. And it's like a lot of it's cultural because you see in the South, I'd say hi to anybody and everybody. I'll talk with you. I'll wave at you, whatever. We just tend to be a little bit more or have like a little bit more hospitality, whereas not always is that the case across the entire U.S.
No, it's
Or at least
not.
what I've seen. But it was so hard for me to understand. Like I grew up with the idea of Christianity, the idea of church being normal, like just being something I heard about every day. Like
Yeah,
Jesus is something
definitely.
I hear about every single like it was like something I just you hear about every week. Whereas like other places throughout the world, other places throughout the U.S., like it's not a normal. It's not as normal. You like we've got so many churches. It's not even funny. Like I could walk from my house to one, two, three, four, five, mm,
Actually, like 5 minutes from my
6 or 7 probably.
apartment, there's a church, and then where my parents live, there's 2 other churches. Because
Hmm.
my parents live right in the middle of like Little Italy. Of course, very religious, very God based.
Right.
And there I am.
So that's what's so crazy is like in the Bible, like there's so many churches everywhere. Like it's just normal. Whereas like other
Yeah.
places it's not. But honestly, King, the reason I asked you like where you were from is I saw that you said that you were from the East Coast. So that's the only that's actually the only reason I'd asked where you were from. I was curious to see how far away you were. Where in Virginia do you live? I'm from Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Tennessee isn't in Virginia.
I know it's not. It's
I
not in
was
Virginia.
actually I was in Tennessee on the 13th through the 17th hanging out with some family. Well, not actual family. It was my best friend's family, and I kind of spent like a mini Christmas with them over there.
Dude,
It
it's
was
awesome.
great. They're all friendly. I went hunting. It was amazing.
Where in Tennessee did you visit?
I have no idea where I was. I was asleep majority of the time,
That's fair.
but
Be
when
like that.
when we went hunting, I was like, "Is this an actual gun?"
Dude, that's so funny.
Yo, the deer there, I've never seen an actual buck. Freaking huge. I thought I was a
Oh
big
yeah,
dude. No.
yeah. Deer are pretty big. Would you think that's big? Have you seen what a moose looks like? I always thought they would be like the size of a deer, like just kind of like not too big. Moose are like gigantic. Like they're look like a
Like
bus.
easy
Yeah.
6'9", bro.
Yeah, like
Big.
that's stupid.
People don't expect them to be that big. And they
No,
come to Canada.
like that was
And then
crazy.
they're like, oh, yeah, that's a big ass moose. It's like, yeah, no shit.
That's terrifying.
They're pretty big. Don't go near them. Don't piss
So-
them off.
But
Like it easily can clear a Ford F-150.
oh yeah,
Easily
100%. Like
clear.
it could literally like step over my truck, like no problem.
Oh, yeah.
At all. So where in Virginia are you from?
Me currently in Newport News just came from. Well, it's been a solid 2 years since I've been in Norfolk.
So you said Newport.
Definitely Newport.
Newport.
There's no picture of
Let's
this
see how
fucking
far away that is from here.
moose.
Because I feel like that's
I mean,
not.
I'm saying because like you're talking about church. So I grew up Baptist, but I was
Same.
like, I was only Baptist because I was like forced to be Baptist. I was curious about every other religion that ever existed. This is my second time hearing about her religion, but I'm like, I've never actually met anybody to actually go into depth with it. I've been
I
in depth with.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm definitely
I'm
gonna have to
pagan,
hit you up
but
later with that one.
yeah, I'm pagan. My boyfriend is Catholic, Roman Catholic. And this is something that Panther and I were talking about earlier is like how my boyfriend and I have agreed to like blend religions in a way for children, for like our future children.
Yeah,
With
that's the thing. I'm seeing here like when it comes to relationships, do y'all force or like talk to the kids about, hey, this is what I do and this is what he does? Do y'all work to make it one religion and make a new religion completely, or do you just like let them choose which path they want to take?
so we had actually talked about this. He wants to baptize our children, and I said, okay, cool, we can do that. But I want to teach them rituals, the rule of three, and about my beliefs in nature. And he goes, okay, cool. So I was like, if you want to
Actually, sounds
baptize
dope.
our children, like I will be there 110%. I'll be involved, I'll be present, but I also expect the same in return for when I'm teaching them about, pagan beliefs. And he goes, okay, makes sense.
Oh, Newport's not that far away. It's like 3 hours out.
Are you? Because we can definitely hang out, or you could just come to my church.
So, Newport's 3 hours away from where I live right now. So that's not too bad.
Wait, Richmond?
No, Richmond. Richmond's a lot farther. Looked up Newport.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, if you're in Richmond, I was just up there on Tuesday.
No, Newport's Newport's 3 hours out. Richland,
I'm just gonna.
Richmond, Virginia.
But I'm gonna add Luna. I'm
Hello.
gonna add you as a friend, and whenever you're free, just shoot me a message, and we can educate me more.
Yeah, for sure. I'm down to talk. I'm always down to
A
like
lot
talk
of the
about religion.
questions that you just asked were answered on my stream. So if you ever like, we just want to like go back and watch that as well. A lot of
Yeah.
that stuff will be you kind
Definitely
of like
doing
click
that.
through that.
I'm usually like at work right now, but I got off dumb early because I completed what I was supposed to do
Heck yeah.
without what you call it, procrastinating. And I came home just like I haven't been on Twitch in a while. And then I'm scrolling and not suggestions. I actually follow you.
That's what I was gonna say. I
I
was like, you
followed you
followed me
from
for a
somebody
while,
else.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I followed you from a raid. Energy was amazing. I only follow people with good energy. So your energy was definitely amazing for me to follow you.
I appreciate
And
that.
then I'm just like, I haven't seen you stream for a while. Then I come back and it says Bible study. I'm just like, yo, this is definitely a vibe. And I clicked it, and you're telling me, well, it was great, guys. I loved everyone who stopped in the stream. I'm just like, no,
So
wait, come back.
my
I
stream
was
normally
I was
starts at
playing a
midnight and goes till about 3 or 4 a.m. So
yeah, I was playing a game on stream, and then I finished my new icon for Twitch, and I was like, let me play some games. And then I played way longer than I was supposed to. I was like, oh my god, yeah, Panther's streaming. We were gonna talk about religion. So I jumped on, and I was like, I'll only talk
That's
to him
still
for like an hour. Yeah, that did not work out. I've been on here way longer than an hour.
but
Way
yo, that's
longer.
wild. Cause like I'm new Pentecostal, so it's
okay.
like being Pentecostal versus Baptist, same kind of belief, different path.
Yeah, big
They
big
follow the
differences too.
same path to an extent, but when you're Pentecostal, you have to receive the Holy Ghost and then get baptized.
Yeah.
Or in some type of order, you have to have both though in order to get into heaven. When it's Baptist, you're only taught about the three. You have the Holy Spirit, you have God Himself, and then you have the omnipotent, like the other God who's here all the time. When they're all three one being, but they have like three different personalities to an extent.
Yeah.
So when
So
you're Baptist,
go ahead.
you get baptized. And I'm just like, all right, cool. I've like, but when you're baptized, what happens afterwards? Like, what's the next move? Then I moved over here, found a whole new church. I'm just like, they actually like instead of just telling me what the Bible says, they broke it down for me.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what a
And I'm
good
just
church
like,
is supposed to
okay,
do.
so what Baptist told me as a child, I really didn't understand it, but like Now there's like the Holy Trinity. That's like, oh, like okay, so it's a Holy Trinity. That makes way more
Yeah.
sense now.
So actually, so I grew up Baptist as well, and I don't really know where I like sit. Like I definitely have my foundations in like what what Baptist taught, and now I'm kind of like I'm somewhere in between Baptist and like non-denominational, just because of the fact of like some of the different things that I didn't agree with, that like ways that Baptists did things, but. So Baptists actually do believe in the Holy Trinity. They believe in the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. So there's God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. We do believe in all three of those. And with baptism, you don't have to be baptized to go to heaven. It doesn't. It says, I mean, because straight up when the thief died on the cross, he wasn't baptized. Jesus looked over at him and he was like, surely you are the Son of God. And he's like, okay, well, in that case, today you will be with me in heaven. So he didn't, the thief on the cross didn't get baptized, but he still went to heaven. The idea of baptism is that it's a outward profession of your faith, and shows that you've been like cleansed, like of your sins. But it's not, you don't have to be baptized. We're just supposed to do that. But that's kind of like what Baptists actually actually believe.
The closest that Wiccans really have is like a naming ceremony, but even that is not specifically
right.
Like baptism. We don't really have anything like that.
But yeah,
but
King, that's what Baptists are supposed to like technically believe.
Yeah, but for
they
reference,
actually teach you the right
Roman
way.
Catholic. Born Roman Catholic, left the faith, went pagan.
The way you just chronological order. It happened. It's there. It's real. Got bored with y'all and went over here.
It was there. It existed. I went, no, thank you. And I left. And I went, bye.
Honestly.
I'm gonna go over here now.
But now, like being in a Baptist church and like being in a Pentecostal church, the energy is really different.
Oh, it's a massive difference in energy, 100%.
Yo, promise you, I went Pentecostal and I haven't looked at any other religion since I've been over here.
Well, I mean, Pentecostal is still Christianity. It's still Christian. It's still Christianity.
Okay, it's a type of Christianity.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a denomination of Christianity. And and we were talking about this last stream.
So long, I have no idea.
Well, even Catholicism is different. So there's Catholicism, there's Christianity, and then from Christianity, there's different denominations. And we talked about this last stream because Demonic was asking questions. She said
we talked
she asked
about so much tonight.
Yeah, a ton of stuff.
We talked about penis
of
candles, bloodletting,
all kinds of stuff.
Of the weird shit.
The last stream.
Yeah, so not last stream. So last Tuesday. So every single Tuesday, I'm planning on doing this Bible study, is what I call it, and like talk about different religions, talking about what I believe, what different people believe, and let them ask questions and stuff. But yeah, last week we talked about different denominations, and like basically the difference between denominations is just the way that churches like have their ceremonies, or just differences in how people interpret small differences in the Bible. Not the big thing is with Christianity that all Christians believe is that God gave his son to die on the cross to save us from our sins, and by accepting him and believing that he died on the cross to save you from your sins, you'll be saved from your sin. That's the big thing with Christianity. And then from there on, you have all these different denominations that believe all these different like small differences, and a lot of the differences have to do with how they like run their church service, how like what's like okay, what's not okay with like how you do different things in the church services, and the different like music, different like I guess like what you wear, what you have to do to like in like your like normal daily life and stuff like that. It's really the difference between denominations.
Also, it's like really segregated on genders type stuff. Unless you're like a married couple, or like you're together, you're literally male on this side, female on this side, unless you sit in the middle.
Wait, really?
That's wild.
Yeah, like we have leverage, we have RSM, It's like age oriented, but literally all the guys sit on one side of the church and all the females sit on the other side of the church.
For real?
If you're like middle school or elementary and below, and it's like Bible study right now. We have our Bible study like age group wise, and then we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
different
that's
leaders,
normal.
and it gets broken down like that. But like
Wow.
other than being at church, we they definitely talk to each other, like, 'cause they go to school to each other, and we're friends with each other in the church. But when it comes to like service and stuff or some type of events, we're like one gender.
That's crazy.
That's
Wow.
wild.
I've never heard of a
That is
church
Yeah.
doing
the
that.
opposite of
I
paganism.
mean, it's like I can understand it because being in church with like a Baptist church, I was very distracted. So I can definitely get why they do it now,
Well, that's not
like in this church.
it shouldn't have to be like that in my opinion, but like the
Oh no, I definitely agree with you because like it's like depending on how your mindset is or what
right,
you allow yourself to be tainted by, a female won't stop you from getting into your faith if that's like your path. That's the path you want to be
right.
on.
Or a good woman won't.
A good
Yeah.
definitely wanted to say that, but I'm like currently trying to
And the same difference
unbelieve myself
for
that I did
man,
on accident.
and the same difference for a man, a good man will not go against a woman's faith and like force her into something. Like that's the whole like that's what I that's the whole difference, you know. So it's not just women. Like, I don't want people to think that I'm
Window open.
coming at that, but but yeah, but we will be doing this every Tuesday. King, you definitely got to hop in and do it again, or do it or
And you definitely
hop in with
said
us again.
12, and I'm gonna adjust my schedule. I need to be a part of this.
What's you got a question in chat, Panther. It
Oh,
says,
I
what's the
did.
difference between Christianity and Mormons?
Okay, that's actually one that I don't know about. One that
The
I
Panther's gonna have to do research on
will
that one.
find out. I will call and talk to somebody, and I will get an answer for that because that's
Yo,
interesting.
one of the guys at my job said he was Mormon and he read a book, and I'm just sitting here like, I have no idea what that is, but if it has anything to do with religion, you're the farthest thing from that. And he got highly upset with me. I'm just like, first of all, no.
At the end of
You're
the day,
no.
my thing with like people's religions and stuff, we were told this actually come up earlier again. Well, dude, there's so many different things that come up. It cracks me up. But like, somebody said that they believed, or that they didn't practice a belief, but they considered themselves so and so. So one of them didn't practice Christianity daily, but considered themselves Christian. One considered themselves Hindu and doesn't practice Hinduism. And I said, so like they asked like if that really if you thought that you could be that without practicing it daily. And I said honestly, I said that's the equivalent of saying like saying that you don't believe in something but still saying that you like are that. So like if I didn't believe in God and believe in Jesus and then said I was a Christian, that wouldn't make any sense because in essence that's what being a Christian is you believe in that. So it's like it's something we were talking about, and it's the same thing for your guy at your work. Like he doesn't practice it, then is he really one? But see, the thing is like we aren't called to judge that. That's not my job. I don't judge whether somebody goes to heaven or hell. I don't judge whether somebody really is truly a Christian or not. It's not my job. So it wasn't what I was called here to do. I was called here to love, and I was called here to tell people about Jesus. That's all that matters.
On the opposite hand of that, or I guess same hand, different finger. It's like when people say pagans are, Satanists,
Oh,
or
you're definitely not.
It's very
Or, like,
It's very
pagans
stereotypical. Is the big thing.
yeah, like pagans worship the devil. It's like I don't believe in that. Like that's so far from the truth. Like I used to know somebody who was an actual Satanist. Like that was his religion.
Well, it's based off what like pagans would actually believe. So if, like that's what
It's
pagans
different.
actually
We don't believe in the same things. Like Satanists, like I wouldn't be able to talk about it because I don't know it, but I know that our beliefs are vastly different.
Right.
The only overlap in paganism and Satanism is consent, where both religions believe in the power of consent.
Right.
But to say like, oh, you're pagan, you must be a Satanist. It's like, no, I don't believe in Satan.
Right.
That's pushing something onto me that you believe in. And
Right.
it's people making
So
that judgment call.
I guess my
No.
my thing is like whatever pagans believe, that's what you believe. So like
Yes.
for somebody to be able to like not believe in everything that pagans believe in, I would have to question whether they're actually pagan or not. You see, like you get my like reason
Yeah.
or whatever. That's what I was really talking about. Honestly, is like
Okay.
that
Gotcha, I got you.
difference because that's kind of wild to me. Honestly, is that like people like are out there that are like, I don't know if I really fully believe this, but then they're like, but I'm still so and so religion.
I don't believe it, but I'm gonna say I believe it. It's like,
Yeah.
no, just
Like,
it's
no.
okay to say you don't know.
If you don't believe that, it's fine. You don't have like that's not the
You're
thing.
not
But
obligated.
like you're not you aren't part of that belief system if you don't believe that. Like,
Well, I
it's a whole
thought
deal.
Kevin was an atheist at first until I saw the cross, and I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we've been talking about in here, King. It's been a very interesting thing, and just like I was telling everybody on stream earlier, I ran from this for a while. I felt like God was calling me to have this conversation with people, be able to sit down and have these talks and let people ask questions and be able to ask questions to different people. And I was scared to do it because I was doing pretty well on my stream. I was playing video games, people were coming and watching, and I was quite terrified that I would not only lose viewers, people would unfollow me. I was afraid that people wouldn't watch, and that I'd probably do more harm than good. People would hop in here and be like, "Oh, well, that's what he's doing now. I don't want to be part of that," and they would leave. And I was afraid that, in a normal everyday sense, I could sit and be nice to people. I could be a lot to people, and make them want to know, well, what's different about this guy, without having to sit here and talk about these things. And then I finally come to the conclusion. I was like, I'm being called to do this. This is what I've been told to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. I just need to do it. And what's funny is that passion was a lot of the reason why I finally made the decision, because Christine Kane talked about it. Tim Tebow talked about it, but the overwhelming theme that I kept getting from passion was God told somebody to do something, and either they chose not to do it, and something bad happened, or they missed out on a massive opportunity, or they chose to do what God asked them to do, and something crazy happens every time. Something marvelous happens. You see that in so many different stories, and we saw that a lot in the stories that were told and the stuff that was told at Passion. Until finally, that last one of the last ones was when we had those those papers. I'm talking about, King.
Okay, it's late.
Yes.
All right, well, you're good.
I just had an email from my school. Like, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, you're good, big dog. I'll catch you later. I appreciate you hopping in.
Night.
But King, those papers that they gave us out that we wrote stuff on, right at the end of Passion. What'd you say?
I had notes on mine.
Okay. Well, the one that was like to like what, like to the ends of the earth, like where is he sending you? Like that paper. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So that paper that had the markers on it or whatever. I just felt overwhelming that I was feeling called again. Felt like he was drawing my heart, like calling me to come to do this. And I finally was just like, all right, God, like, this is what you're calling me to do. This is what you've told me to do for months now. And I've run from it. And I kind of felt like Jonah, I just didn't get thrown in the belly of the whale, But I felt like I had been called to do it. And finally I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I wrote down Twitch, and I wrote down the online community on that, and come home. And that night, the day I got home, that night was my first Bible study. And that was last week on Tuesday, and I was like, I'm gonna do it, and I did. And what was crazy is like it was more than anything I could have imagined. I expected to have 2 viewers the whole time. I expected to have a couple like-minded people in Discord talking with me, and us talk about like an actual Bible study or talk about what happened at Passion. And what's crazy is I started talking about Passion. My buddy hops in. I didn't know at the time, but he's actually Catholic. I was expecting to have like-minded individuals, not other religions, in here as well. I thought maybe other religions would be in the chat, like ask questions or like want to know stuff. And we ended up, it changed into this, and like was so crazy that I got to really talk about these different things and really get to dig deep into my faith and dig deep into other people's faith and like why they believe what they believe. And it's just been a really, really cool thing. Ended up with like 9 viewers for most of the time last Tuesday, and then it ended up being like a 4.5 hour long conversation. It was insane.
I definitely have to catch up, man. I missed a few because of work, but about to. I'm not going to sleep anytime soon, so I'm about to binge a couple of these.
Yeah, dude. So last Tuesday, that would have been the. Let me see what the calendar says. I guess Tuesday night, so into Wednesday. So it'll show us either the 4th or the 5th on as the stream. You'll see it on there. It'll be another one about the like Bible study or something along those lines. In the title, but I've only done
I'm back
one
on
Bible
Twitch
study.
now. I'm trying to close you out so you don't echo.
Yeah, you good, man. But yeah, that should be the that should be the name of it on there in like my past videos or whatever. But go back to like last Tuesday or Wednesday, it should be on there, and you can watch it. But it was like 4.5 hours long. I played a little bit of Rebirth at the start of it, and then went right into it. But definitely check it out. But I'll be back next Tuesday doing the exact same
I
thing.
worked on that stream. It has me at end for 1:27.
Oh heck yeah, dude! I thought I saw you hop in there during it. But the idea is that throughout the week, normally I'm playing Call of Duty or playing some type of like FPS game. Normally playing games, and then on Tuesdays,
Halo Infinite.
I play Halo a little bit as well.
That.
I played a little bit of the multiplayer on it, but normally I'm playing Call of Duty. But I'll be doing that every other day throughout the week, and then on Tuesdays will be my day to do this like Bible study, like Tuesday nights, starting at, or I guess Wednesday morning starting at midnight. So. But yeah, that's the whole idea, the whole go. But I'll be back doing this again